Chapter 2283. The people here were all familiar with each other. Needless to say, Chu Pingzhan and Wan Er knew about Lang Gu Jr.'s situation. Yang Ming was the person who crippled Lang Gu Jr., so Lang Gu Jr. told the truth in front of them. "You did well this time. I have a way to help you recover." Yang Ming said to Lang Gu Jr. if it was before, Yang Ming naturally wouldn't make any guarantees. However, Yang Ming had received Lin Dongfang's medical skills. Moreover, he had just used his X-ray vision to check Lang Gu Jr. and found that this guy's injury had been fixed by surgery in the hospital. The problem now was mainly a neurological problem. It was actually similar to Shin Yushi's problem. It was just that the location was different. Shin Yushi's was the leg while Lang Gu Jr.'s was the lower body. This kind of neurological problem was actually the most complicated and headache-inducing problem. Even if little Lang Ji's family was rich and powerful here, they had seen countless doctors, but they were helpless. However, it didn't mean that Yang Ming couldn't do anything about it. With the experience of treating Shin Yushi, it was basically a sure thing for Yang Ming to let Lang Gu Jr. recover and regain his masculinity. That was why Yang Ming made this promise to Lang Gu Jr. Of course, he also saw that Lang Gu Jr. was really sincere in helping Chu Pingzhan and Wan Er. Since this person sincerely repented, then Yang Ming didn't mind giving him a chance. Ah. After listening to Yang Ming's words, Lang Gu Jr. was dumbfounded. He never thought that there would be a day when he could recover. Since he was crippled, his father, Lang Gu Sr., kept looking for women every night. However, he was old and his energy was not enough. He worked hard for a long time, but there was no result. In the end, he went to the hospital for a checkup and found that there was a problem with his body. The probability of giving birth was relatively small. Even if he gave birth, the child's health would be affected, so Lang Gu Sr. had to give up. Therefore, it could be said that the Lang Gu family had given up now. However, Yang Ming's words suddenly rekindled Lang Gu Jr.'s cold heart. "Really? Brother Yang, I can still recover." Lang Gu Jr. looked at Yang Ming in disbelief. "I have a certain amount of confidence," Yang Ming said, "but we have to solve the problem in front of us first." "Thank you, Brother Yang." Lang Gu Jr. was extremely excited. He didn't expect that his misfortune would be a blessing in disguise. Originally, he was prepared to die and fight with Pingzhan and Wan Er until the end. However, Yang Ming suddenly appeared and helped them solve the problem. Not only that, Lang Gu Jr.'s persistence also allowed him to gain Yang Ming's trust. Although Yang Ming said that he could heal his injuries, Lang Gu Jr. still couldn't believe it. After all, too many doctors had already examined him and said that there was no hope. What could Yang Ming do? However, this was the only way. Lang Gu Jr. had no other way. He could only listen to Yang Ming. If Yang Ming had a way to heal him, it would be a great surprise. In his heart, he didn't have the slightest dissatisfaction about being crippled by Yang Ming. After all, he didn't do the right thing in the beginning. He wanted to touch Wan Er. Now that he thought about it, if he really dared to touch her, it wouldn't be as simple as being crippled. If Yang Ming didn't cripple him first and he didn't do anything, then the elders of the Heavenly Dan sect and the Dark Knight Palace would have picked up the butcher's knife and aimed at the Lang Gu family and the street racer gang, making them completely disappear from the earth. How could the people of the ancient sects be so easy to talk to? Therefore, he had to thank Yang Ming for stopping him from making a big mistake. At least he was still alive now. It was better to be alive than to die. Moreover, there was another turning point in this matter. Although Lang Gu Jr. was extremely excited, Yang Ming still saw a trace of uncertainty and worry in his eyes. He smiled slightly and said, "If I'm not wrong, you should have a problem with your nerves, right?" Brother Yang, how did you know?" Lang Gu Jr. was stunned. Yang Ming hadn't examined him yet, but he actually said that he could tell the root cause of his illness. How could Lang Gu Jr. not be surprised? One must know that Yang Ming just said it casually. Although this injury was done well by Yang Ming, who could control the situation of this injury? If Yang Ming's kick could destroy a person's nerves, then it would be amazing. Even a martial arts master wouldn't be able to control it, right? Moreover, the hospital that Lang Gu Jr. went to for medical treatment suggested that he have it removed. Lang Gu Sr. brought him to many famous doctors to keep it, but there was no hope for a cure. It could only be used as a decoration. Originally, when Yang Ming said that he could be cured, Lang Gu Jr. was just happy, but he didn't have too much hope. After all, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. During this period, he had experienced too much hope and disappointment. These ups and downs had made his mentality a little numb. Every time he found a big international hospital, they would say that there was a chance, but after seeing it, they would give up helplessly. This made Lang Gu Jr. mentally prepared. However, Yang Ming's words revealed his secret and the root cause of his illness. This made his heart move suddenly. In this case, Yang Ming might really have a way. Previously, I just cured a patient with a nerve problem. However, the location is different from yours, but I have some confidence. Yang Ming said, her leg was basically sentenced to death, but now she can stand up properly. Really? That's great. Lang Gu Jr. was ecstatic. After this is over, I'll have to trouble Brother Yang. Don't worry, someone is coming. Let's deal with the matter in front of us first. Yang Ming looked at the direction not far away and said lightly. Someone is coming. Not only was Lang Gu Jr. stunned, but even Chu Pingzhan and Wan were stunned. Outside the huge garbage dump, it was empty. There was no one and no cars passing by. Why did Yang Ming say that someone was coming? Yang Ming saw their strange expressions and smiled faintly. Naturally, he wouldn't tell them that he had X-ray vision and telescopic vision and could see the situation in the distance. He only ordered, Lang Gu Shao, take Chu Pingzhan and Wan and hide behind. Leave this to me. Yes, Brother Yang. Although Lang Gu Jr. was puzzled, he still nodded and agreed. He took Chu Pingzhan and Wan to the garbage dump not far behind Yang Ming. It was all abandoned car parts. It wasn't very dirty, but it was a little messy. Chapter 2284. Yang Ming stared at the direction not far away and frowned slightly. Yang Ming didn't put the previous two elders in his eyes, but this old woman who came now seemed to be a little capable. The old woman in Yang Ming's eyes was the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace that Elder Jiao and Elder Cui were talking about. The Grand Elder was now a Heaven Rank late stage expert, and her strength was at the peak of the Heaven Realm late stage. She was only half a step away from the peak of the Heaven Rank. According to Feng Tianlong, in the cultivation world, the peak of the late stage of the Heaven Realm was already the top level of strength. So although Yang Ming was confident, he did not blindly underestimate the enemy. The ninth elder was shocked and horrified. He did not expect that Yuan, that bitch, actually knew such a powerful master. Yang Ming's body did not fluctuate with qi, and when he made a move, he did not mobilize or use the surrounding aura. What kind of master was this? Could it be that he was a master of external martial arts? Thinking of this possibility, the ninth elder's heart suddenly trembled. External martial arts masters, although they were not put in the eyes of internal martial arts masters, external martial arts masters of the same level were almost weaker than internal martial arts masters of the same level. But there were exceptions to everything. For example, there were a few sects that practiced external martial arts such as Golden Bell Shield, Iron Shirt, Iron Fist, Iron Hand, Divine Fist, and so on. These were all existences that the internal martial arts sects were not willing to easily provoke. And the masters of external martial arts sects such as Divine Fist Palace and Tai Yi Hall were existences that the internal martial arts sects did not dare to provoke. The peak of the late stage of the Heaven Realm, especially the peak of the late stage of the Heaven Realm, were not existences to provoke. Could it be that Yuan-er's lover knew the people of Divine Fist Palace or Tai Yi Hall? That seemingly very young master was a master of external martial arts from Tai Yi Hall, a peak of the late stage of the Heaven Realm. It was not that there were no masters who reached the peak of the late stage of the Heaven Realm around the age of 20, but they were all from the super-ancient sects, such as the Ice Palace and Snow Valley, these two branches from that place, and the everyday sect that gave the major sects a headache. In these ancient sects, there were precedents of peak of the late stage of the Heaven Realm around the age of 20. However, the Dark Knight Palace and the Heavenly Elixir sect were not. These two sects could only be considered second-rate sects among the ancient sects in the current Jianghu. Hence, if they were really from Tai Yi Hall, then the Dark Knight Palace and the Heavenly Elixir sect could only choose to retreat. Sigh, the Heavenly Elixir sect is about to become a first-rate sect in the Jianghu. However, the glory of a sect was not something that could be achieved by the efforts of one generation. It required an opportunity and the unremitting efforts of the successor. Now that there was an opportunity, it all depended on the young sect leader. The ninth elder was actually an ambitious person. He was also a person with no selfish motives. He was essentially the same as the grand elder. He hoped that his own sect would be glorious. The car drove back to the hotel where they were temporarily staying. The seventh elder quickly got out of the car and ran upstairs through the emergency exit, ignoring the strange gazes of the people around him. His hands were already crippled, so he couldn't press the elevator button. He had no choice but to do this. However, for cultivators, tens of flights of stairs were a piece of cake. After the seventh elder went upstairs, he came to the door of the Great Supreme Elder's room and knocked twice with his foot. The Great Supreme Elder's voice came from inside, "You're back. Come in, the door isn't locked." Patriarch 7 kicked open the door and walked in. Patriarch 7 did not notice anything strange about him, but he was a little confused when he did not see Patriarch Chui. "Have you caught all of them? What about Elder Chui and Wan-er? Why didn't they come together?" "Patriarch 7, please help me and the seventh elder." The ninth elder said with a sad face, "Patriarch Chui is dead." "What? What did you say?" The Great Supreme Elder was stunned, as if he did not hear the ninth elder's words clearly. "What did you say just now? What happened to Patriarch Chui?" "Patriarch Chui is dead." The ninth elder said with grief and indignation, "Wan-er, that little bitch." Speaking up to hear, the ninth elder saw the Great Supreme Elder's unhappy face and immediately shut up. He just remembered that Wan-er was the big miss of the Dark Knight Palace. If he said that, it would be strange if the Great Supreme Elder's face was good. However, the ninth elder was smart and quickly changed his words. "It's that little bitch's father in Wan-er's stomach. I don't know where he got an expert from, but he seems to be an external expert. He's very strong and killed Patriarch Chui. He even crippled my arms. If I didn't come back to tip you off and let you die, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to come back." The ninth elder's words were half true and half false. Although there were elements of adding fuel to the fire, there was nothing wrong with it. It was basically the truth, but he was too embarrassed to say that he broke his own arms, so he blamed it on Yang Ming. As for letting the Great Supreme Elder die, it wasn't Yang Ming who said it. However, Yang Ming did mean that, but the ninth elder said it out loud. The Great Supreme Elder wasn't unhappy that the Great Supreme Elder insulted the child in Wan-er's stomach as a little bitch. In her eyes, a child born from messing around with a normal person was a little bitch. She wanted to kill it anyway, so she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. However, the opponent's arrogance made the great Supreme Elder frown. Patriarch Chui was killed. One had to know that Elder Chui was an early-stage heaven class. Although this level of strength wasn't considered the best in the ancient sects, it was at least in the top ranks. He wasn't someone that could be killed just because someone wanted to. Moreover, what confused her the most was, where did Ping Zhan get this friend from? He was actually such a strong external expert. How old is that external expert? What kind of martial arts does he use? Do you know him? The great Supreme Elder was angry and heartbroken, but he still asked. After all, knowing the enemy and yourself was the key to victory. The enemy's appearance was too strange, and the great Supreme Elder had to figure it out. An external expert who could kill Elder Chui and injure Elder Zhou, his strength was not weak at all. Chapter 2285. He had to be at least a physical master above the middle stage of Heaven stage. Physical masters above the Heaven stage could be counted on one hand in the cultivation world. There were even fewer people above the middle stage of Heaven stage, so the Elder wanted to confirm what this person's background was. Elder, that person is very young, about 20 years old, about the same age as Yi Wan, and Chu Pingzhan. The ninth Elder said, he should be good at defense and attack skills, defense and attack. He knows both of them. The Grand Supreme Elder was stunned. He took Elder Chui's attack head-on, and then smashed Elder Chui's head with a single punch. Ninth Elder smiled bitterly. It all happened in an instant. The two of them only used one move each. There's no way to judge anything else, what? You said he took Elder Chui's attack and then killed him. The Elder's eyes widened in disbelief. Although Elder Chui was an early-stage Heaven stage master, it was impossible for a peak late-stage Heaven stage master to be unharmed after taking his attack head-on. And for a physical master to be able to do this, unless he practiced Golden Bell Shield, Iron Mantle, or other extremely high defensive skills. However, he also blew Elder Chui's head with one punch. Could this be related to the Holy Fist Palace? For a moment, the Elder couldn't help but frown. A 20-year-old physical master, it was very likely that he was at the peak of the late phase of Heaven class, the strength of a supreme being, but the Grand Elder didn't have any impression of such a strong physical master. Who on earth was it? That's right, he killed Elder Chui. The ninth Elder said with grief and indignation, I'm not his opponent, please help me. All right, come with me. The Supreme Elder said with a dignified expression. The car was still the same commercial car as before, and it returned. Yang Ming had already begun to observe the old woman in the car until she got off and walked over. Yang Ming's eyes were always on her face. As for the ninth Elder, Yang Ming automatically ignored him. This kind of coward wasn't worth mentioning. Now that his arm was broken, he couldn't do anything. Although it could be seen that his arm was still immobile, it had been connected, but Yang Ming didn't care. He looked at the Supreme Elder and asked, You are the Supreme Elder who thinks you are awesome, right? Which sect are you from? Why are you involved in this mess? Although the Elder saw Yang Ming's arrogance, he wasn't angry because of it. He did have the strength to be arrogant. He pointed at Elder Chui's body on the ground. You interfered with my Dark Palace's business for no reason. Even if you have a strong background, I'm afraid you'll have to give me an explanation for this matter, right? You killed our law-enforcing Elder. Do you really think you can do whatever you want? That ninth Elder, didn't you tell this old woman that I don't have any background? Yang Ming waited for the Elder to finish, then looked at the ninth Elder and asked. The ninth Elder was stunned. Yang Ming did say something similar, but he thought that Yang Ming didn't want to reveal his background, so he deliberately hid it, so he didn't tell the Elder. Do you think that by hiding your identity, I won't be able to find out your background? The Elder snorted, Tai Yi Hall or Holy Fist Palace. Which sect are you a proud disciple of? Old woman, I told you, I don't have a background. If you want to do it quickly, don't talk about it here. Yang Ming knew that the elder was testing him, but Yang Ming didn't need to rely on any background at all. Good, very good. Since this is what you said, you can be a witness, ninth elder. The elder smiled. Although Yang Ming was a very powerful external expert, she wasn't weak either. She already had the intention to kill Yang Ming. Yang Ming didn't reveal his identity, which was the best. It was in line with the elder's intention. If Yang Ming was really a disciple of Holy Fist Palace or Tai Yi Hall, it would be difficult for her to do it. Now that Yang Ming said he wasn't, then she would just take it that he wasn't. Anyway, those who didn't know wouldn't be blamed, and the ninth elder could testify. Yes, I also heard this kid say that he doesn't have any background. The ninth elder couldn't wait for Yang Ming to die, so he was happy to testify. If so, then you stay here and pay for Elder Chui's life. The elder's eyes flashed a fierce murderous intent. Her hand moved, and a red silk wrapped in a thick golden true chi flew towards Yang Ming. This red silk was the weapon of the elder. Once she made a move, she naturally wouldn't hold back. She directly wanted to take Yang Ming's life. For this move, she used her strongest move and strength. She didn't leave any leeway for Yang Ming. The red silk wrapped in golden true chi was like a fire phoenix, rushing towards Yang Ming. The strong power and true chi fluctuation made the ninth elder have to retreat far away to avoid the sharp edge. Yi Wan, who was in the distance, was even more frightened at this moment. She didn't expect that the elder would use her strongest move to take Yang Ming's life. However, just as everyone was nervous and depressed, a lazy voice sounded, "What is this thing?" Following the sound of this voice, the pressure and true chi fluctuation also disappeared in an instant. Whether it was the ninth elder or Yi Wan, they all opened their mouths wide in shock. Including the elder herself, they all looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. The red silk weapon that she was so proud of was actually casually grabbed by Yang Ming in his hand. It was as if the pressure and strong power from before didn't exist to Yang Ming. Yang Ming casually pulled, and the red silk pulled the elder forward and staggered. This scene made everyone present even more dumbfounded. The elder even more bitterly and shockingly thought of a frightening possibility. Golden Bell Shield or Iron Mantle large success. Legend had it that the person who mastered these two elements would be invulnerable to swords, spears, and water and fire. My red silk had the ferocity of the metal element and the scorching flame of the fire element, but it couldn't hurt Yang Ming at all. This was clearly a Vajra physique that was invulnerable to swords, spears, and water and fire. However, the elder didn't give up. She took advantage of the red silk being pulled forward, and quickly moved forward, slapping a palm on Yang Ming's chest. She wanted to probe Yang Ming's true strength. Pang! A loud crash was heard all of a sudden. Chapter 2286. The palm landed solidly on Yang Ming's body, but Yang Ming's face was calm as if he wasn't affected at all. Just when the Supreme Elder was stunned, Yang Ming quickly threw a punch at the head of the Supreme Elder on the stage. No! Wan didn't have any feelings for Elder Chui. She was just an ugly lackey, so she didn't care if she died. But Wan didn't want anything to happen to the elder. Although the elder was mean and wanted to kill Pingzhan and the child in her stomach, and bring her back to the Dark Palace, she didn't have any selfish intentions. However, the Grand Elder didn't have any selfish motives. Everything she did was for the good of the Dark Palace, so Wan didn't say anything. Of course, although Yang Ming heard Wan cry, he didn't stop his punches. This was because Yang Ming knew that this old woman was different from that trash, Elder Chui. This old woman had some ability and wouldn't be killed by one punch. At most, he would give her a concussion when she wasn't prepared. Moreover, the elder was prepared in the next moment. Yang Ming wouldn't be able to hurt her even if he had a concussion. Bang! But, although the elder was prepared, she was still hit by Yang Ming's punch. There was no other reason, it was because she was too close to Yang Ming. She couldn't dodge, so she could only take it head-on. But even so, the elder's head was still buzzing from Yang Ming's punches. Obviously, she was injured to a certain extent. Although it wasn't too serious, to be able to penetrate her chi protection and hit her, this fist technique wasn't normal. Elder Chui didn't die in vain. He didn't have such a strong true energy to protect his body. Even if he was prepared, he would definitely die within 5 punches if he didn't die after 1 punch. A strong sense of fear and dread rose in the elder's heart. Too strong. Not only was this person's defense strong, but his attack wasn't weak either. This kind of monstrous level existence was simply invincible. Even if a peak late phase heaven class master came, he wouldn't be able to hurt Yang Ming, but he definitely wouldn't be able to do anything to him. At this moment, Yang Ming's appearance overturned the Grand Elder's previous understanding of external sect cultivators. As far as she knew, physical masters of the same level would always be weaker than spiritual masters of the same level. For example, a peak late-stage heaven-class physical master would always be weaker than a peak late-stage heaven-class spiritual master. This was also the reason why she followed Elder Zhou to ask for an explanation for Elder Chui. She was already an inner force master at the late stage of heaven rank. In her opinion, Yang Ming was at most on par with her, or even worse. This was because outer force masters were tough at the beginning, but because they didn't have enough true chi in their body, they couldn't sustain their true chi. Inner force masters had endless true chi. If the two of them continued to fight, the one who would eventually be defeated would definitely be the outer force master. In the past, it wasn't that the Grand Elder had never met an outer force master. For example, the master of Holy Fist Palace did have the power to split mountains and seas, but as long as she avoided the sharp edge, found his flaws, and consumed his physical strength, she could finally defeat him in the end. Therefore, the Grand Elder wasn't afraid of Yang Ming at all. Although she valued him, it was definitely not to the extent of fear. However, the current Yang Ming couldn't be killed at all. This kind of outer force master was simply a nightmare for an inner force master. It wasn't until this moment that the Grand Elder truly understood a truth. The road of martial arts was ever-changing, but the changes were still the same. All roads lead to Rome. Outer force cultivators, when they cultivated to the extreme, could also become invincible masters in the world. Now, the Grand Elder dared to say that even if Yang Ming faced an inner force master at the peak of heaven rank, it would only be a tie. After reaching the extreme, the gap between the outer force and the inner force was really very small and negligible. Even, depending on the person who cultivated, the outer force might be better than the inner force. This discovery made the Grand Elder's previous cognition directly collapse. "Boy, where did you come from?" The Grand Elder's voice was very hoarse. Obviously, she couldn't accept the fact in front of her. "I've said it several times, I don't have a background." Yang Ming said lightly, "If you have to ask me where I came from, I can only tell you that I was once from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau." "What? Supernatural Investigation Bureau? When did such an expert come?" The Supreme Elder furrowed his brows. However, she was vigilant in her heart. Just now, her true chi was used to hit Yang Ming's palm, so the defensive true chi allocated to her head was relatively small. Now, she was still a little buzzing from Yang Ming's punch. She had now mobilized all of her true chi to protect her body. In this way, Yang Ming would definitely not be able to hurt her. Don't worry about whether there is such an expert or not. What's the point of studying this? I asked you to come here to solve this problem. Yang Ming said lightly, Chu Pingzhan and Yi Wan are my friends. As long as you say the word, will you let them go or not? Boy, are you threatening me? The Grand Elder was a little sullen, but he still snorted coldly. I'm discussing with you. Yang Ming said lightly. That punch just now also tested the Grand Elder's strength. He could definitely hurt the Grand Elder if she wasn't on guard, but if she was on guard, it would be difficult. However, the Ninth Elder wasn't that difficult. Compared to the Grand Elder, even if the Ninth Elder was on guard, Yang Ming should be able to cripple him with a few punches. After all, the Vigor Goo wasn't just for show. No matter how simplified and weak the simplified version of the Vigor Goo was, it was still a Vigor Goo. Boy, I admit that your strength is not bad. I can't touch you, but in our Dark Palace and the Heavenly Dan Sept, there are countless experts at my level. There are even a few who are stronger than me. Do you think that you can still interfere in this? The Grand Elder could only start to threaten Yang Ming. Oh, then you can let them come. I'll let you all beat me up together. Let's see what you can do to me, Yang Ming said indifferently. Beat him up together. The Grand Elder's mouth twitched. This boy was really confident. However, when he thought about how his two attacks didn't have any effect on Yang Ming, the Grand Elder knew that even if a few more people came, they still wouldn't be able to do anything to him. This guy wasn't a normal person. He couldn't be measured with common sense. Numbers wouldn't do anything to him. Chapter 2287. Alright, let's not talk about these useless things. I must protect these two people today. It's up to you to let them go. Yang Ming said arrogantly. Let them go. The Grand Elder took a deep breath. Today, I can't do anything to you, but you can't do anything to me either, right? Can you kill me? No. Oh, what do you want to say? Continue. Yang Ming raised his hand and signaled for the Grand Elder to continue. If that's the case, you can protect them today, but can you protect them forever? Unless you're always by their side, otherwise, hee hee. Although the Grand Elder didn't continue, his meaning was self-evident. The Grand Elder's words made Pingzhan, Wan, and Lang Ji's face change slightly. They saw that things were going in a good direction, but they didn't expect the Grand Elder to say something like this. Yes, Yang Ming could protect them for a while, but could he protect them forever? Oh, it seems like you're threatening me. Yang Ming wasn't angry, but he laughed and looked at the Grand Elder playfully. So what if I am? The Grand Elder looked as if he had already won. He wanted Yang Ming to not interfere with the Dark Palace's business. Since you're threatening me, I might as well threaten you too. Yang Ming looked at the Grand Elder in disdain and said, if anything happens to Pingzhan, Wan, their children, and the people around them, the result will be very interesting. What do you mean? The Grand Elder froze. I forgot to tell you, I started out as an assassin. Yang Ming shrugged, if something happens to them, I'll go to the Dark Palace and Heavenly Dan Sect. If nothing happens, I'll kill your disciples and elders for fun. And you, if you're not prepared, I might kill you too. You dare to go to our sect? The Grand Elder was shocked. He didn't expect Yang Ming to do this. Aren't you afraid of being surrounded by our masters? Whatever, what do you think you can do to me? Yang Ming curled his lips and looked at the Grand Elder in disdain. You have more people, do you think you can kill me? No way, right? I'm afraid you can't even hurt me. Even if you use tricks and put me in a cage or a cave, it's okay. I can come out as soon as I hit it, just like this. As Yang Ming spoke, he rushed directly to the commercial car at the entrance of the garbage dump. He slammed his body into it, and the car flew directly. It fell on the ground in the distance and turned into a pile of scrap iron. The disciple who was driving the car also died directly. The Grand Elder sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of cultivator could cultivate external martial arts to such an extent? That's why I said that I can go and leave as I please. If I'm in a good mood today, I'll rest for 2 days. Tomorrow, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll go and kill a few disciples and elders. I'll sneak attack you when you're cultivating or sleeping. TSK, I bet your sect will be wiped out soon, right? Yang Ming said indifferently. The Grand Elder's face turned green, but he had to admit that Yang Ming's threat really scared him. If Yang Ming really did that, he could guarantee that in less than a year, no one in the Dark Palace would be able to escape from his evil hands except for the Sky-class late-phase masters. Moreover, even those Sky-class masters would have to be careful to avoid being sneak-attacked when they were sleeping or cultivating. The Ninth Elder heard Yang Ming's words and was shocked. Don't. This hero, Big Brother, Senior, Master. Our Heavenly Pill sect won't be involved anymore. It has nothing to do with us. We won't marry Yuan or either. Our Heavenly Pill sect will draw a clear line with the Dark Palace from now on. We won't contact them anymore, and we won't seek revenge or trouble them. Please, I'll leave now, okay? The Ninth Elder was scared. If this guy went to the Heavenly Pill sect, he'd be screwed. The Grand Elder was a bit angry at the Ninth Elder's words, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that this old thing would only protect himself, but he had to admit that Yang Ming was too ruthless. He'd blocked their lifeline. It's impossible for you to know where our sect is. Yuan also wouldn't betray us. The Grand Elder knew Yuan character. He knew that even though she had cut ties with the sect, she still wouldn't betray the sect. This was the only chance she had. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'll ask around myself. I have a colleague who came from the ancient level. I'll ask him and he'll know where you are. Yang Ming said casually. The Grand Elder didn't expect Yang Ming to know other people from the ancient level. Her face was pale. Finally, like a deflated balloon, she had no choice but to compromise. Yes, he had to give in. This move of Yang Ming's was simply too ruthless. Although he couldn't protect Pingzhan and Yuan all the time, if something happened to them, this guy would come to them and they wouldn't be able to guard against it. Alright, let's be frank. This is over. I have other things to do. I don't have time to waste with you. Yang Ming said. The Grand Elder looked at Yang Ming with an uncertain expression. Then, he looked at the Ninth Elder. This guy was obviously avoiding his eyes. The Grand Elder knew that the Dark Palace and the Heavenly Pill sect would break ties in the future. If that was the case, for the sake of the Dark Palace's future development, the Grand Elder decided to swallow the humiliation and turn his face faster than flipping the pages of a book. This young hero is too serious. Wan is this young hero's friend. Naturally, this old lady won't do anything to ruin their happiness. The Grand Elder smiled. As the saying goes, it's better to tear down 10 temples than to ruin a marriage. This old lady wishes them well. The Ninth Elder rolled his eyes. He had heard that the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace could be shameless for the sake of the sect, but he didn't expect him to be this shameless. Seeing that the situation was irreversible, he began to think about how to get the greatest benefits for the Dark Palace. This Yang Ming in front of him was young, but his strength wasn't weak. It could be described as heaven-defying. If he became a friend of the Dark Palace because of this, the Dark Palace's strength and status would rise. Yuan was also somewhat speechless. However, her tightly hanging heart finally settled down. The Supreme Elder's words meant that she admitted defeat and showed weakness, and she had the intention of winning over Yang Ming. Even Yang Ming didn't know how to react. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone this shameless. This wasn't just shameless, it was shameless. This speed of change was miraculous. Yang Ming was completely speechless. Chapter 2288. That. Supreme Elder, you mean? Yang Ming was a little hesitant. He didn't want to hit a smiling face, so he didn't want to make sarcastic remarks. Hee, since young hero has come forward, I can't be a bad person in vain, right? Then you can live with little Chu without worry. Supreme Elder said. Thank you Supreme Elder. Was surprised and happy, but she also knew that this was the result of Yang Ming's hard work. Otherwise, how could Supreme Elder be so easy to talk to? However, you are still a member of our Dark Knight Palace, don't forget this. Supreme Elder said with a smile. Moreover, when Dark Knight Palace is in trouble, I hope young hero can help us. After all, we are Er's family. Yang Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This old woman was really shameless, how could she say such words? However, Yang Ming still nodded for Er's sake, and said, well, since the matter is settled, then you are Er's family. If you are in trouble, I can't just sit by and do nothing. I knew young hero wouldn't just sit by and do nothing. Supreme Elder said with a smile, what is young hero's name? Yang Ming. Yang Ming said lightly, but you don't need to investigate, I am really not an ancient level person. My strength was obtained through other coincidences and coincidences of cultivation. Beside me, there are a few similar friends. There are more. Supreme Elder and Ninth Elder took a deep breath. Yang Ming was already powerful enough as a monster, but there are more. Of course, Yang Ming was talking about Lu Yezi and Lin Dongfang. Lu Yezi had also taken Jin Gang Gu and the simplified version of Titan Gu. Although he was also invulnerable, he was not as strong as Yang Ming. According to the people around Yang Ming, the super Jin Gang Gu on Yang Ming was an existence that couldn't even be killed by nuclear weapons. As for Lu Yezi, he was only an ordinary Jin Gang Gu and had some weaknesses. Meanwhile, Lin Dongfang was much stronger. Not only did he have Jin Gang Gu, he also had the complete version of Vigor Divine Gu, but with these two combined, his defense was slightly weaker. The Herculean venomous worm couldn't display the legendary effect. But even so, it was invincible and invincible. Except for Yang Ming, it could still injure Lu Yezi. Then when the Dark Palace is in danger, I hope young hero Yang can help. After all, we are Er's family. If something happens, you won't just sit by and watch, right? The Supreme Elder shamelessly said, when the time comes, I will ask those masters to help together with young hero Yang. Yang Ming looked at Yi and Chu Pingzhan, smiled bitterly, and nodded, all right, since that's the case, let's bury the hatchet. This is good, I don't have to waste time killing people. The Supreme Elder was speechless. Did Yang Ming think that killing disciples and elders was a waste of time? However, with Yang Ming's skills, he was really invincible. No one dared to refute him. Then our Heavenly Pill sect. The Ninth Elder wondered if he could take this opportunity to get some benefits for the Heavenly Pill sect. What are you still standing here for? Get lost. Yang Ming frowned and glanced at the Ninth Elder. This old dog was quite happy to bark, but now he was scared and still wanted benefits. The Ninth Elder didn't expect Yang Ming to be so merciless. Go back and tell your young sect master that if he has any ideas about Yi again, I will go up the mountain and kill you all. If I can kill you, I will. If I can't, I will leave. You can't do anything to me. Yang Ming said indifferently. All right. I will go back and tell the young sect master now. The Ninth Elder was helpless and prepared to leave dejectedly. A wise man submits to circumstances. He knew that he couldn't do anything to Yang Ming at this moment. The best choice was for the Heavenly Pill sect to not get involved in these things in the future and cut off all contact with the Dark Palace to avoid getting into trouble. As for Yang Ming, even the Supreme Elder of the Dark Palace couldn't do anything to him. Naturally, the masters of the Heavenly Pill sect couldn't do anything to him. Instead of angering Yang Ming and causing him to go to the Heavenly Pill sect, it was better to cut off all ties with Yang Ming as soon as possible. Scram! Yang Ming waved his hand and said impatiently. Young hero Yang. The Supreme Elder asked carefully. You can leave too. There's nothing for you to do here. Yang Ming looked at the Supreme Elder and said faintly, I don't like people who follow orders on the surface but go against them on the inside. If anything happens to Yuan or Chu Pingzhan, or their children, you should consider the consequences yourself. This. Yes. Seeing Yang Ming's serious expression, the Supreme Elder's heart skipped a beat. He quickly cupped his fist and said, Don't worry, young hero Yang. The Dark Palace won't trouble them anymore. But the other sects, like the Heavenly Pill sect. If there are other troubles, I will take care of them myself. Yang Ming humphed coldly. How could he not see through the Supreme Elder's thoughts? This old thing was very smart. She was afraid that the other sects would cause trouble for Chu Pingzhan and Yuan, and then he would blame it on her. Therefore, she made a clear statement in advance. However, Yang Ming wasn't someone who couldn't tell right from wrong. He knew that the Supreme Elder couldn't control the other sects, so he didn't make things difficult for her. As for the Heavenly Pill sect, they probably wouldn't dare to cause trouble for them anymore. Chu Pingzhan and Yuan only offended these two ancient sections. They wouldn't have any other enemies on the ancient level. As for the other levels, Langgu Jr. could handle it. There was no need for Yang Ming to do anything. Thank you for your understanding, young hero Yang. The Supreme Elder said, If that's the case, I will go back and report to my superiors. Wan, you stay here. After that, the Supreme Elder cupped her fist at Yang Ming again. She completely treated Yang Ming as her equal or even higher level. Then, she turned around and left. As for the broken commercial car and the unlucky disciple inside, the Supreme Elder naturally didn't care about them anymore. She didn't even collect Elder Chui's body. She was afraid that if she made Yang Ming unhappy, he would play some tricks again. In her eyes, the sect's interests were above everything else. She didn't care about the life and death of the other disciples and elders. If they were dead, why would she collect their bodies? As long as she didn't make Yang Ming angry and went home safely, everything would be fine. After the Supreme Elder left, Yang Ming said to Langgu Jr., Ask someone to deal with the bodies here. Then, we can go back. Yes, Brother Yang. Langgu Jr. nodded quickly. Chapter 2289. Langgu Jr. was very familiar with dealing with corpses. They often held underground car races and there were countless black racers who died in car accidents, so he naturally didn't care about a few corpses. He made a phone call and the people who left before came back. They quickly dragged Elder Chui's body and the car that was destroyed by Yang Ming. Langgu Jr. respectfully invited Yang Ming, Wan and Chu Pingzhan into the Grand Cherokee he drove. Chu Pingzhan and Wan only regained their senses after they got into the car. The scene just now was like a dream to them. Solved. Everything is solved. Not only the Supreme Elder, but even the Ninth Elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect listened to Yang Ming's threat. He immediately shriveled up like a frosted eggplant. He didn't dare to say a word. Thinking about Yang Ming's threat, Chu Pingzhan and Wan looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. However, they had to admit that Yang Ming's threat was the most effective. Think about it, Who would dare to offend a master like Yang Ming who couldn't be killed? If he went to your sect and started a massacre, you wouldn't be able to do anything to him. If he swaggered away and came back after a while, what sect would be able to withstand it? In just a few times, this sect would be exterminated. Brother Yang, thank you. Chu Pingzhan said sincerely, I didn't expect that this time, we would be able to get out of this alive. Yeah, thank you, Brother Yang. I underestimated you before. I'm sorry. Wan Er thought about how she underestimated Yang Ming before and felt a little embarrassed. It doesn't matter. You advised me to leave before because it was for my own good. You didn't want me to get involved in this mess. But since I have the ability, and little Chu is a relative of my godfather and godmother, then he is like my younger brother. I will spare no effort to take care of him. When Yang Ming said this, it was from the bottom of his heart. Yang Ming's achievement today couldn't be separated from the help of a few people. There was Sun Xikong, Fang Tian and the most important person, Lu Weishan. It was Lu Weishan's kindness and selflessness that allowed Yang Ming to find his first pot of gold. It laid a solid foundation for his future success. Therefore, no matter which one of these three people was in trouble, Yang Ming would spare no effort to help. Yang Ming was a very emotional person. He would repay a drop of water with a spring. He was a very warm-hearted person, so naturally, he wouldn't reject. According to Fang Tian's words, Yang Ming was actually not suitable to be an assassin. However, if possible, he could go further and stand higher. Brother Yang, where are we going now? Langguo. Chu Pingzhan and Wan's Gu and Wan's and Wan's and Wan and Wan's and Wan's and Wan's. Ants racing Ants.Lang. I'm staying at the Douglas Grand Hotel. Yang Ming said, then let's go to your racing hotel first. I'm currently staying at the Douglas Grand Hotel, so it's fine. Okay, Brother Yang. Lang Gu nodded quickly. He was hoping for this. Yang Ming promised to treat him, but now that the matter was over, he couldn't take the initiative to mention it. Now that Yang Ming took the initiative to say it, Lang Gu was naturally very happy. Don't worry. I won't break my promise to you, Yang Ming said lightly. Lang Gu returned to the racing hotel with Lang Gu. Lang Gu Sr. had already received the news and prepared a banquet. When Yang Ming and the other three arrived, they could start the banquet. Lang Gu Sr. was relieved when he heard that the previous incident was averted. At the same time, he was proud of himself for being able to ride on Yang Ming's thigh. Even those legendary martial arts masters were not Yang Ming's opponent. Who else could challenge Yang Ming? Mr. Yang, welcome, welcome. How have you been? Lang Gu Sr. walked over with a smile, looked at Yang Ming and greeted him respectfully. Lang Gu Sr., you look good. Have you been doing well recently? Yang Ming smiled. Thanks to Mr. Yang, we are doing well here. The Douglas family takes good care of us, and we have a lot of business dealings. Lang Gu Sr. said with a smile, but this huge family business in the future. Sigh. Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He knew that Lang Gu Jr. told Lang Gu Sr. that he was going to treat him, and Lang Gu Sr. was a little impatient. Lang Gu Sr., I understand what you mean. I'll check on Lang Gu Jr. in a while. Yang Ming said with a slight smile. That's really troublesome, Mr. Yang. Lang Gu Sr. was a little embarrassed when Yang Ming saw through his thoughts. He laughed dryly and quickly invited Yang Ming into the hotel. It's no trouble. But we can only take a look first. I didn't bring the nerve-stimulating drug. If acupuncture doesn't work, I can only ask someone to send the drug over, Yang Ming said. Okay. Lang Gu Sr. said yes repeatedly. After they went upstairs, they came to a super luxurious private room. The food and wine were already prepared. Pingzhan and Wan were very happy at the banquet. Langgu Sr. and Langgu Jr. were even happier, but Yang Ming's expression was very indifferent. Chu Pingzhan, why don't you give your godparents and your father a call? They're probably worried about you. Yang Ming reminded when he saw that Pingzhan was so happy that he forgot to tell his family the good news. Ah! Chu Pingzhan was stunned. Only then did he remember that he really forgot to report the good news to his family. He quickly picked up the phone and dialed his father's number. At this moment, Chu Sanhua was sitting in Lu Weishan's house with a worried face. Although Yang Ming had left for Las Vegas, his call with Chu Pingzhan wasn't very optimistic. He didn't even have time to tell him that Yang Ming was going to help him before the call was hung up. It was obvious that Chu Pingzhan was in trouble, so Chu Sanhua was very anxious. Sanhua, Yang Ming is a person who knows when to stop. Since he promised you, there will be no problem. Chu Huifang comforted. Yeah, uncle, I know brother Yang Ming. Moreover, his martial arts are enough to protect his younger brother and sister-in-law. There should be good news coming soon. Lu Tianqi was also very confident in Yang Ming. After all, they had lived and fought together. They experienced the more dangerous trip to Miaojiang. Not only did they survive safely, but Yang Ming also got a blessing in disguise. Yang Ming had the super version of Jin Ganggu. It was definitely not a problem for him to protect himself. However, he didn't know if he could explain it clearly to the ancient people. Chapter 2290. As they were talking, third brother Chu's phone suddenly rang. Third brother Chu picked up the phone and saw the caller ID. He was excited and quickly picked up the call. Pingzhan, is that you? How are you? Are you okay? Dad, it's me. Chu Pingzhan was a little ashamed. He was too busy being happy that Yang Ming's reminder reminded him that his father was still worried about him. He quickly said, I'm fine. It's all thanks to Yang Ming bro. He arrived in time and solved the problem. Ah, it's solved. That's great. When Chu Sanhua heard that Yang Ming had solved the problem, he was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect that he really came to ask the right person for help this time. It was said that it was a big problem. He didn't expect Yang Ming to really solve it. Yeah, it'll be fine in the future. Wan Er's sect won't come looking for trouble anymore. Pingzhan said, we can go back to Songshan now. Mr. Yang Ming, you're really amazing. Sanhua said emotionally, if that's the case, I'm relieved. You guys must be busy right now. I won't ask about the details, we'll talk about it when we get back. Okay, Dad, we're eating now. I'll hang up first, Pingzhan said. After hanging up, Yang Ming continued eating while Sanhua let out a sigh of relief. Sis, brother-in-law, it seems that this Yang Ming is really not someone to be trifled with. I didn't expect the matter to be resolved so easily. Originally, I thought. I knew it. Big Ming promised you, so he should have some confidence. Look, it's solved, right? You don't have to worry anymore, right? Huifang smiled. Yeah, I don't have to worry anymore. I'm finally relieved. Sanhua nodded. This time, when they come back, I'll have to thank Mr. Yang properly. I'm willing to give up everything I have. There's no need to thank him. We're family, there's no need to be so formal. Aunt Chu waved her hand and said, Big Ming doesn't really want your property. Don't mention this again. Yes, big sister. Chu Sanhua seemed to be very afraid of Chu Huifang and quickly said. At the same time, he was secretly ashamed in his heart. It seemed that it was not a bad thing to have a good relationship with Yang Ming in the future. In the racing hotel, after Yang Ming and the others were full, Yang Ming brought Langgood Jr. to an empty room. Pingzhan and Wan Er also gave them some time alone. Okay, take off your pants. I'll check for you, Yang Ming said. Here. Take off your pants. Langgood Jr. suddenly felt a little embarrassed. What's wrong? Are you embarrassed? Yang Ming said with a smile. That's not it. It just feels weird. Langgood Jr. said, why do I feel like we are gay? Get lost. Yang Ming glared at him. Are you going to treat him or not? Heel. Let's treat it now. Langgood Jr. was shocked and quickly took off his pants. Lie down. Yang Ming said. Langgood Jr. quickly lay down on the bed. In fact, Yang Ming felt strange in his heart. He was not a professional doctor. He always felt that it was a little inexplicable to treat this kind of illness. Unlike Shin Yushi, Langgood Jr. was a man. The treatment process was not ambiguous nor meaningful. However, since Yang Ming promised, he still carefully checked Langgood Jr.'s lower body. Although Yang Ming briefly looked at it before, he did not look at it carefully. At this time, he found that Langgood Jr.'s injury was not as serious as Yang Ming imagined. Langgood Jr. had also gone to many major international hospitals for treatment. Although these hospitals did not completely cure his illness, they did their best to help him recover by 70 to 80%. Now, there were only some blockages in his nerves and meridians. These situations could not be cured during surgery, but Yang Ming could help him heal through acupuncture. He didn't even need to use the kind of stimulating and nerve-repairing medicinal solution. Of course, this was also because Yang Ming had received the teachings of the generation's miracle doctor, Lin Dongfang. Otherwise, Yang Ming would really be helpless about Langgood Jr.'s current situation. But now, since he found the cause of the illness, Yang Ming naturally devoted himself to the treatment of Langgood Jr. With a slight shake of his right hand, a few silver needles flew into Langgood Jr.'s body. Yang Ming's method of recognizing acupoints was even better than Lin Dongfang's. After all, Yang Ming was the king of assassins and was good at flying needles. Therefore, acupuncture was just a change of method for Yang Ming. One was to kill, and the other was to save. See. Langgood Jr. was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't expect that a small silver needle could actually cause such a huge damage to him. Langgood Jr. had never thought of this before. He thought that this small needle would be like an intravenous drip in the hospital. It wouldn't hurt at all. However, Langgood Jr. was a man. No matter how painful it was, he still gritted his teeth. He didn't even make a sound. He only took a few deep breaths. This situation made Yang Ming admire him. This kid is not bad. The entire acupuncture process lasted for about half an hour. Although Langgood Jr. was in a lot of pain, Yang Ming was also very tired. Yang Ming had to adjust the position of the needle according to the time at any time. Therefore, Yang Ming was also very nervous during this half an hour. As Langgood Jr.'s pain gradually subsided, his face gradually showed a relieved expression. Yang Ming also knew that the treatment process was nearing its end. He pulled out the silver needles on Langgood Jr. one by one and said, "Okay, it's done." "Ah. That's it." Langgood Jr. couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at Yang Ming in disbelief. He didn't expect that Yang Ming didn't operate on him or take any medicine. A few silver needles could help him get rid of his pain. Of course. If you don't believe me, you can try it later. Yang Ming smiled and didn't explain much. Anyway, Langgood Jr. would know whether this thing worked or not when he tried it later. It was meaningless for him to explain. This. I'll try it now. Langgood Jr. seemed a little impatient. He jumped up from the bed and wanted to go out. But he remembered that he hadn't worn his pants yet, so he quickly came back to put them on. You don't have to wear them. I'm going out. You can try it here. Yang Ming waved his hand and turned to leave the room. He believed that Langus Sr. would soon send someone to help Langgood Jr. with the experiment. After leaving Langgood Jr.'s room, Yang Ming saw Langus Sr. anxiously waiting outside the door. Seeing Yang Ming come out, Langus Sr. quickly greeted him and asked, "Mr. Yang, how is it?" "My son." Chapter 2291. There should be no problem. He's looking for you. You can go and see him, Yang Ming nodded with a smile. Then. Thank you so much, Mr. Yang. Langus Sr. didn't expect Yang Ming to cure Langgood Jr.'s illness in such a short time. Wasn't this speed too fast? However, he knew that Yang Ming was very good. He didn't suspect that Yang Ming was lying. After thanking him, he quickly pushed the door open and walked into Langgood Jr.'s room. Langgood Jr. was about to call Langus Sr. and ask him to help find a better chick for him. This time, Langus Sr. was a little scared after experiencing this incident. He wanted to find a better chick to try. If possible, he wanted to get pregnant and have a child to avoid any problems in the future. Langus Sr. originally had this intention. After hearing Langgood Jr.'s words, he quickly went to do it. He couldn't wait to have a grandson. He couldn't do it himself. If Langgood Jr. only recovered for a while and left some sequelae in the future, it would be fucked. Therefore, this matter had to be done quickly. Yang Ming didn't pay much attention to Langgood Jr. and the others. He was confident in his medical skills. To be precise, he was confident in Lin Dongfang's medical skills. Yang Ming came to the door of Chu Pingzhan and Yi Wan-er's room and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" Chu Pingzhan's voice came from the room, but obviously, he saw Yang Ming's figure through the peephole. He quickly opened the door and said excitedly, "Brother Yang, you're here, and I just cured Langgood Jr. and came to see you," Yang Ming said. After all, Yang Ming's time was limited. Dong Jun hadn't contacted him yet, so he could still talk to them here. Once Dong Jun called, Yang Ming would have to leave. "Ah, it's cured. Brother Yang is really amazing." Chu Pingzhan sincerely admired, "I'm calling father, aunt, and uncle. Do you want to talk to them?" "Hee, you guys go ahead. I won't say anything else." Yang Ming waved his hand. He didn't want to take up their time to catch up with their families. "I just came to see you. Maybe I have something to do tomorrow, leaving so soon." Pingzhan was a little disappointed. He'd wanted to invite Yang Ming to play with them for a few days. Pingzhan and Wan had just escaped from danger and they had been in constant fear for the past few days. This kind of fear could only be understood by those who had experienced it. They were always worried that the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace would come to their door and they were always worried that Langul would be implicated because of them. These days were not good. Even when he contacted his family, he was worried that the people from the Dark Palace would find him. Now, they finally got rid of these days. Pingzhan and Wan planned to have a good time in Las Vegas and treat it as a honeymoon. As for Yang Ming, their savior, they naturally wanted to invite him to play with them. However, they didn't expect that Yang Ming had other things to do. Maybe he would leave tomorrow, the problem is solved. At least the people from the Dark Palace won't come to you guys anymore, Yang Ming said. If I stay here, wouldn't I be disturbing the two of you? Brother Yang, you're joking. We can't wait for you to stay with us. We can also repay you for saving our lives. Chu Pingzhan said. Yeah, Brother Yang, we, husband and wife, are really grateful to you. Yi Wan-er also ended the call with Chu Sanhua and walked over. But I really do have something to do. It's not that I'm avoiding you. Yang Ming waved his hand. There will be opportunities in the future. Since we're relatives, it's normal for us to keep in contact. If there's trouble, you don't have to be polite. Just ask me. Then. Okay. Wan knew that a powerful person like Yang Ming wouldn't be like them who had nothing to do every day. Besides, Chu Sanhua also said that Yang Ming came to Las Vegas because he had other important things to do. So she didn't ask him to stay, only saying, "Then Brother Yang, accompany me and Pingzhan for a chat. I'm curious about you. How are you so powerful?" Yang Ming's appearance completely overturned Wan-er's understanding of martial arts and cultivation. Although the sect she was in didn't get involved in the affairs of the secular world, she still had some understanding of the secular world. Those practitioners in the secular world, being able to reach the mystic class or even the golden class was already very impressive. Yang Ming's existence was almost above the sky class. It was rare even in the ancient sects, so Wan-er really wanted to know how Yang Ming trained. My martial arts are more random. There's no reference value or possibility of imitation. Yang Ming saw Wan-er's expression and knew what she was thinking. He smiled and said, "My martial arts suddenly became this powerful under a coincidence. In fact, I didn't give up anything. Inheritance." Wan-er was slightly stunned and thought of a possibility. That was the inheritance of martial arts. It was said that people with special physiques could, under a coincidence, obtain the inheritance of ancient ruins. And the inheritor's cultivation would soar like a rocket, without any arms or legs. Including her own Palace of Darkness, there was also an inheritance situation. It was just that Wan-er's blood wasn't very pure, so she didn't receive the inheritance and failed. So her first thought was that Yang Ming received the inheritance. Inheritance. Yang Ming was also stunned. Although Yang Ming didn't know what inheritance was, but from the words, it wasn't hard to understand. This was probably a way to quickly increase one's strength and quickly obtain martial arts. Thinking about it, his situation was a bit like an inheritance. At the last moment when Elder Yu exploded, he passed on the super version of the Jin Gang Gu to him, so he could be considered to have received Elder Yu's inheritance. Thinking up to this point, Yang Ming nodded and smiled. You can think of it that way, but it's not quite the same. Brother Yang, come in quickly. Wan-er, look at you talking, you forgot to ask Brother Yang to come in and sit. It's so impolite to stand at the door. Chu Pingzhan saw Yang Ming and Wan-er talking at the door and quickly said, "Ah. Sorry, I didn't think so much." Yi Wan-er stuck out her tongue. She was actually quite cute. She didn't look like someone who came from an ancient sect with strict rules at all. Yang Ming entered the room and Wan helped Yang Ming make tea. Yang Ming didn't hold back and took a sip. Chapter 2292. He had wasted a lot of energy to treat Langgood Jr. before, so he was a little thirsty now. After drinking a mouthful of water, Yang Ming said, "By the way, Yi Wan-er, there is a question. It's not appropriate to mention it when we were eating, but I have always been curious. Since you are from the ancient sect, why weren't you Langgood Jr.'s opponent?" During the meal, because Langgood Jr. and Langgood Sr. were both present, Yang Ming couldn't ask about these old matters. It seemed like he deliberately mentioned it to beat Langgood Jr., so he could only ask in private when he was free after the meal. When Yang Ming set off from Songjiang City, he was a little puzzled by this question, but he didn't ask Chu Sanhua. After all, Chu Sanhua probably didn't know much about it, so Yang Ming prepared to ask Yi Wan-er directly. "Are you saying that I don't have strength?" Yi Wan-er smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, this is because I ran away from home without permission. Before I left, I was afraid that the people of the Dark Night Palace would find me, so I took a sealing pill to seal the chi in my body. In this way, within 5 years, the chi in my body will be sealed, and I will be no different from a normal person. Oh. Isn't it better for you to run away and preserve your strength? Yang Ming asked strangely and puzzledly, if you don't have strength, you don't even have the ability to protect yourself, right? In our ancient sect, there are some people who are very sensitive to true chi fluctuations. Even if they hide their strength and don't use their true chi, they can still feel some subtle differences. The Grand Elder is such a person. She can feel the cultivators in a certain range around her. Even if the cultivator doesn't use their true chi, she can still use some methods to determine the cultivator's true strength. Of course, this is only limited to internal experts and experts who are weaker than her. Like Brother Yang, he should belong to external experts. She won't be able to detect it, so that's the case. Yang Ming nodded and thought that this was mysterious. However, thinking about it, even elder you can distinguish the aura of the people around me. It is impossible to sneak around him. This ancient sect is so mysterious. They must have some means. However, after hearing Wan Er's reply, Yang Ming was even more curious. If that's the case, then how did that old woman from the Dark Palace find you? You're already hiding overseas, but she can still determine your location. That's amazing. As for how to find me, that's because of another reason. No matter how much I calculated, I never would have thought that I have the Dark Phoenix bloodline unique to the Dark Night Palace in my body. Although I couldn't obtain the inheritance, I could still use some methods to find me. Wan bitterly smiled. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have sealed my own strength. Before, I thought that there were no cultivators in the secular world, but now it seems that there are some hidden cultivators in the secular world. If Grand Elder wants to find me, it won't be that easy. 5 years. Is there no antidote? Yang Ming frowned and asked, since you're not afraid now, can't you release the seal earlier? If you recover your strength, it will be good for protecting yourself. The key was that Yang Ming couldn't always protect Pengzhan and Wan Er. Yang Ming had to leave sooner or later to meet up with Dong Jun Wan. Having some strength was a good thing. No. Wan Er shook her head. Unless there is a very strong person who helps me circulate my chi to dissolve it, there is no other way. Moreover, it must be an inner sect expert, so Brother Yang, you don't have to worry about me. Yang Ming nodded. He was just saying. If there wasn't, then forget it. Anyway, as long as the Dark Palace didn't come looking for trouble, Pengzhan and Wan had little Langgu to protect them. There shouldn't be any problems here. After returning to the country, with third brother Chu's ability, he should be able to protect them. Thinking up to this point, Yang Ming let out a sigh of relief. Yang Ming was a very loyal person. After knowing Pengzhan and Wan Er's identity, he couldn't just leave them alone. The two were now Yang Ming's younger brother and sister. Naturally, Yang Ming had to take care of them to the end. He wouldn't allow anything to happen to them. Then you two can play here for a while and go back to the country. After all, the trouble has been solved. You're not familiar with the people here, so it's not a long-term solution. Yang Ming said. And, Pengzhan and I just talked about it. We'll go back after the honeymoon, Wan said. That's good. I'm relieved. Yang Ming nodded. Okay, I won't disturb you too. I need to go back and rest. I haven't slept since I came from the country. I need to make up for it. Ah. Brother Yang, go quickly. Wan Er and Pengzhan were shocked and they heard Yang Ming say that he didn't rest after getting off the plane. They quickly said, rest quickly. Yang Ming nodded and went out of Pengzhan and Wan Er's room. However, as soon as he went out, he met Langgus Sr. who was very excited. Mr. Yang, you're so amazing. Langus Sr. said excitedly. Langu Jr. has fully recovered. Now, we'll see the final result. If you can successfully make that girl pregnant, then you'll be the savior of our Langu family. There shouldn't be any problem. Yang Ming said calmly, but he was sweating in his heart. Langu Jr. was like this because of me, right? Now that I've cured him, it's only because of his pitiful attitude. I just did something normal, but Langus Sr. is so grateful. That's good, that's good. Langus Sr. said with a smile. By the way, I'm a little tired. Help me get a room. I'll sleep first. Yang Ming said, I just came here. The time difference is a bit messy. I haven't had time to rest yet, but I've been busy with so many things. Ah. Mr. Yang, you haven't rested yet. Then, treat Langu Jr. It's really troublesome for you. Langus Sr. said excitedly, by the way, you should go and rest quickly. I've already gotten a room. It's just opposite here. This is the room card. As Langus Sr. said, he handed a room card to Yang Ming. Yang Ming nodded and took the room card. He didn't say much and walked to the room Langus Sr. pointed at. After entering the room, Yang Ming fell asleep immediately. Although this room was luxurious, it was just a place for Yang Ming to rest. Yang Ming wasn't interested in other things. Yang Ming slept very soundly, but he was finally woken up by the ringing of the phone. Hello. Yang Ming woke up suddenly and picked up the phone. Chapter 2293. Yang Ming, it's me, Dong Jun. Dong Jun's urgent voice came from the other side of the phone. Where are you? Should I come to you now? Ugh. How about this, you go to the Douglas Vast Hotel. I'm going there now. I've booked a room there. After you arrive, find Batterton directly and ask him to take you to my room to wait for me. I'll give him a call. Yang Ming thought about it and decided to let Dong Jun go to the Douglas Vast Hotel. After all, it was his territory, and this was the Langu family's territory. Although Yang Ming was not afraid that the Langu family would do anything treacherous, it was better for fewer people to know about Dong Jun's matter. Okay, I'll go now. Dong Jun hung up the phone after he finished speaking. As for Yang Ming, he dialed Batterton's phone and explained the matter to him. It was already past 11 o'clock at night, but for Batterton, who had a rich nightlife, he was not asleep yet. Of course, even if he was asleep, he did not dare to neglect Yang Ming's instructions. He remembered Yang Ming's instructions and hurriedly went downstairs to prepare to welcome Dong Jun. Yang Ming said goodbye to Langu Sr., Langu Jr., Chu Pingzhan, and Yuan, and hurriedly left the racing hotel. Although the four of them were a little regretful and reluctant, they had no choice. They knew that Yang Ming was going to do business, so they sent Yang Ming out of the hotel and went back. Yang Ming stopped a taxi and returned to the Douglas Vast Hotel in a low-key manner. Although Langus Sr. could provide Yang Ming with a luxury car at the racing hotel, Yang Ming wanted to keep a low profile when he came to Las Vegas this time. Although he was very high profile in dealing with the Dark Knight Palace and the Heavenly Dance sect, that was only in front of a few people. After the matter was over, Yang Ming naturally would not act in a high-profile manner. He did not want to be targeted by Central's people when he just arrived in Las Vegas. After returning to the Douglas Vast Hotel, Yang Ming went straight to his room. Dong Jun was already waiting in the room. When he saw Yang Ming come in, he immediately stood up. Yang Ming, you're not slow. I just arrived and you're already back. There's no traffic jam here. The roads extend in all directions. I'm not far away, so naturally, I came here faster. Yang Ming said with a smile, how is it? Did you find any clues? Central and Dr. Benjamin are very secretive. Even though their base camp is here, I have contacted and inquired with some gang members here and nearby continents in private. They don't know that there is a very strong force nearby. Dong Jun said, it seems that they are very secretive. Even these local tyrants don't know about their existence. That's normal. Yang Ming nodded, but he was not surprised. Central and Dr. Benjamin do different things from these gangs. I guess they are not short of money. They are just researching some scientific inventions, so they have no interest or intersection with these local gang members. Yang Ming nodded, but he was not surprised. That's true. Dong Jun nodded. The Central doesn't lack money. As far as I know, there are 2 large consortiums behind the Central. One of them is in the hands of my sister, Alice. Of course, this consortium can betray us at any time. As for the other one, I don't know where it is, but it doesn't matter. As long as we destroy the Central, this consortium will be dispensable. We don't lack money. Have you found the specific location of Central? Yang Ming asked. I found it. From here, through a few small towns, we will reach Las Vegas Beach. There is a small island in the open sea that belongs to a private owner. That should be Central's base camp. Dong Jun said, of course, I just used the helicopter to investigate from a high altitude. I didn't dare to fly too close to avoid being discovered by Central and Dr. Benjamin. Central's scientific and technological power is very powerful. I was also afraid that I would attract their attention, so I just disguised as a tourist passing by the sea. What do you think? What is the next step of our plan? Yang Ming roughly understood the situation here, so he asked. Dr. Benjamin has realized that I have betrayed him, so it is not suitable for me to appear in public. Now there are 2 ways. One is that we hide at the dock where Central's people go ashore. We secretly investigate Central's people. It's best to catch 1 or 2 of them. Then we can learn about the situation of the island where Central is located from them. Dong Jun said, the other is to continue to take aerial photos by plane, but I won't show up. Let's hire someone to do this. The first method is good. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, as for the second method, the risk factor is too high. The people we find may be caught by Central's people at any time. It is easy to expose our goal and purpose. Moreover, the photos and information obtained from aerial photography are not necessarily accurate. Since Central is a place with advanced technology, it will definitely disguise the island on the surface. At least, it will make it look more like a harmless private island. Otherwise, do you think other forces nearby are vegetarians? Will they allow a private island that is suspected to be technologically advanced to continue to grow? The first method is indeed the simplest and fastest way, but there are also 2 flaws. One is that we may not be able to catch Central's people. Even if we catch them, we may not be able to get anything out of them. Dong Jun said, the other is that if Central's people go missing, will Dr. Benjamin be suspicious? Will he suspect us? It's not a problem to catch them. As for getting something out of them, even if 1 person can't get it out, can't 10 people get it out? Yang Ming smiled faintly and said indifferently, if we catch a few more people, we can get it out. Moreover, do you think that even if we don't catch Dr. Benjamin's people, he won't suspect us? He won't deal with us. Dong Jun's thinking mode hadn't changed yet. Since we know that Dr. Benjamin wants to deal with us, why don't we make the first move? Even if Dr. Benjamin knows, what can he do? What can he do to us? If we don't catch his people, will he let us go? Yang Ming said with a smile. That's true. Dong Jun nodded, then let's listen to you. Let's make the first move. Tomorrow, let's wait and see if we can catch a few Central's people. Yang Ming nodded, but in his heart, he was calculating the strength of the Central's people. Chapter 2294. If Yang Ming encountered those iron men again, he should not be afraid that they would attack him. If he wanted to find out their weakness, it was possible to kill them with one blow. But the key problem was that Yang Ming was afraid of those iron men, not Central's ultimate means. Perhaps, Central still had some unknown secret weapons hidden. These were what Yang Ming was afraid of. After all, in the face of those people from the ancient sects, Yang Ming was confident and had the confidence to challenge them. Because no matter what, they were all people, and they were all within the scope that Yang Ming could understand. But Central was a little scary. It was beyond the scope of normal people. Central studied technology, some technology beyond the scope of normal people's understanding. If Yang Ming didn't have this pair of magical glasses that could see through things, then he would definitely think that no matter how powerful technology was, how powerful could it be? Even those atomic bombs and nuclear weapons couldn't have any effect on Yang Ming's Jin Gang voodoo. But Yang Ming knew that Dr. Sun Sikong's science and technology had exceeded his understanding, and Dr. Benjamin's science and technology level was not inferior to his. This made Yang Ming somewhat uncertain. What if Dr. Benjamin had mastered some high-tech weapons or high-tech cyborgs? These things were unknown to Yang Ming. He was in the dark, so it was unwise to rashly clash with Dr. Benjamin. At present, the wisest way was to wait near the dock where Central came ashore, catch their people one by one, and find out some secrets about Central from them. Since Dr. Benjamin's people were caught, he would definitely not let it go. Yang Ming didn't expect him to come out personally to check it out. At least, the people sent would definitely be his most capable subordinates, and they would definitely be stronger, not weaker. In this way, Yang Ming could also understand the overall strength of Dr. Benjamin and Central one by one. If he had full confidence, Yang Ming would find a way to negotiate with Dr. Benjamin or initiate a life and death battle. Thinking of this, Yang Ming also made up his mind, I'm not sure if I'm being watched for the time being, but I guess there are definitely a lot of people watching you. At least, Dr. Benjamin must have expected that you would come to his nest to investigate, so the safest way now is for you and me to disguise ourselves. Otherwise, if we are targeted by Dr. Benjamin's people first, the follow-up things will be very troublesome. Disguise? Dong Jun was slightly stunned, but then he nodded in agreement. Yes, disguise is a good idea. If you and I were to act alone, it would not be a big deal, but if we were to act together, we would definitely attract some attention. But if you and I were to disguise ourselves, then there would be no problem. Two strangers together should not attract Dr. Benjamin's attention, but you and I are both Asians. This is a bit out of place here. Although Las Vegas is an international metropolis, and there are many Asians and Asians, it will always attract Dr. Benjamin's special attention. Oh, then I will disguise myself as a foreigner. Yang Ming smiled and said indifferently. Foreigner. Dong Jun smiled bitterly after listening to Yang Ming's words. How can it be so easy? Our Oriental face is very different from the Western face. Even if you disguise yourself, it is quite difficult to pretend to be a Westerner. You don't have to worry about this. Yang Ming said, I can disguise myself. It doesn't matter to you. Dr. Benjamin probably won't suspect that a combination of Oriental and Westerner will be the two of us. Oh. Dong Jun glanced at Yang Ming, hesitated, and then said, well, since you are so confident, then it's decided. You disguise yourself as a Westerner, and I will disguise myself as an Oriental. Then we will go to the pier on the beach of Las Vegas to wait. 2 hours later, Yang Ming became a veritable Westerner. Except for the shape of his head, Dong Jun couldn't find any fault with his face. If it weren't for Yang Ming's voice, Dong Jun would have thought that Yang Ming was a different person. You. Yang Ming, you really surprised me. You are like another person. You don't look like an Oriental at all. You look like a native Westerner here. Dong Jun looked at Yang Ming in shock. In fact, the matter of disguise was quite easy for Yang Ming. Yang Ming's glasses could actually disguise himself. He could almost change his appearance at will. Yang Ming turned on the TV in the inner room of the room, and then changed his appearance according to the images of a few foreigners. It was effortless. The reason why he waited for 2 hours was that Yang Ming was waiting for Dong Jun. Dong Jun's disguise couldn't be as easy as Yang Ming's, so Yang Ming slept first and then walked out of the room. Sure enough, Dong Jun had just completed his disguise. Although Dong Jun also looked like a different person, he still changed his appearance on the basis of the original face. It wasn't a random change. After all, the bones couldn't be changed, unlike Yang Ming, who had a pair of high-tech magical glasses. Of course, if Yang Ming didn't know that the person in front of him was Dong Jun, and then reverse inferred from Dong Jun's appearance, he wouldn't think that the person in front of him was Dong Jun. After all, as the number one godly thief, Dong Jun often disguised himself, and Dong Jun's disguise technique was quite successful. Hee hee. Yang Ming smiled. I can't think about it with normal thinking. Then can you help me disguise myself like this? Dong Jun looked at Yang Ming's current appearance and was very tempted. If Yang Ming became like this, then could he also become like this? Is actually a special ability. Yang Ming smiled bitterly. At this time, he and Dong Jun were brothers in the trench, so he didn't deliberately hide these things. Didn't Dr. Benjamin ask you what special abilities I have? This disguise technique is one of them. It turns out to be like this. Dong Jun suddenly realized. Then Suya, she is the same. She also has this ability. Yang Ming said truthfully, so Dr. Benjamin has been looking for her, but he couldn't find her. Ah! After Dong Jun heard Yang Ming's words, he was shocked. However, it was only for a moment, and his face showed a look of understanding. He nodded as if he had solved a big question in his heart. Chapter 2295. I was wondering why Suya appeared by your side, but I couldn't find any records of her coming to Songjiang City. She didn't take a plane or a train, and she didn't even come from the highway. This is a bit strange. At first, I wondered if she appeared out of thin air, or if she had been staying in Songjiang City and never left. She left in a disguise. Yang Ming said, but your current appearance is fine. At least if I didn't deduce it carefully, I wouldn't recognize you as Dong Jun. That's good. Dong Jun nodded. Let's go out later and find a barber shop to get a new hairstyle to avoid suspicion. Yang Ming nodded and said, it's still early now. Let's take a break first. We will officially start tomorrow. Okay. Dong Jun seemed a little excited. Life or death, success or failure, depended on this move. If he could succeed, then he could become a real free man. How carefree and happy would it be to live in seclusion on Island X with his sister and Yang Ming? For a person who had been controlled by the Central for a long time, being able to regain his freedom was very important. Dong Jun dreamed of living such a life, but he also knew that he had to maintain a calm heart. The more critical the moment was, the more he couldn't be careless. Yang Ming stayed in a luxury suite. Yang Ming stayed in the inner room while Dong Jun stayed in the outer room. The two of them rested for a while. It was almost midnight. Yang Ming called Batterton and asked him to personally deliver some food. Then, he would buy some new clothes and send them over. Yang Ming still trusted him very much. As for the waiters, Yang Ming was afraid that they would be shocked after seeing the changed appearance of the people in the room. Then, they would leak the news. Although the possibility of Dr. Benjamin having contact with the hotel was slim, he had to be on guard. Batterton was naturally very happy to do this. He personally ran to the kitchen and urged the chef to make some very exquisite side dishes. Then, while the chef was cooking, he drove to the mall to buy a few sets of clothes and sent them to Yang Ming's room with the cooked food. However, the person who opened the door was not Yang Ming, but an unfamiliar Westerner. Batterton was stunned. "You are?" Batterton looked at Yang Ming strangely and asked. "Let's talk inside," Yang Ming said calmly. "Ah." Batterton heard Yang Ming's voice, but the person in front of him was not Yang Ming. He was shocked as if he had seen a ghost. He shuddered and asked subconsciously, "You? Who are you? Who did you say I was?" Yang Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He glared at him and said helplessly, "Hurry up and come in first." Hearing Yang Ming's reproachful voice, Batterton still entered Yang Ming's room although he was still a little bewildered. You are Mr. Yang Ming." Batterton looked at Yang Ming in front of him and asked with a strange expression. "Yes. Next, I have to do some special missions, so I have to change my image. It's enough for you to know about this. Don't tell anyone," Yang Ming said to Batterton. Batterton finally breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Yang Ming admit it. He quickly nodded and said, "Of course, I can't just tell anyone. Mr. Yang, the food is ready. Do you need me to do anything else? Also, help us get a fake ID according to our current appearances. Is that okay?" asked Yang Ming. "Of course, it's not a problem. It's very simple." Batterton smiled and said, "You don't have to find anyone else. Just find Langus Sr. S. People can do it. They organize underground racing and often use fake identities." "Okay." Yang Ming nodded and asked Batterton to take a photo of the two people with his mobile phone. Then, he went to get a fake ID. "I have sent the photo to Langus Sr. It will be done soon. Is there anything else?" asked Batterton. "Not for the time being. I will contact you anytime if I have other things." Yang Ming said, "That's it for the time being. We may have to leave here for a while, but on the surface, you'd better pretend that we are still staying in the hotel." "I understand. Don't worry, Mr. Yang. I will deliver food every day." Batterton nodded and said. Yang Ming nodded. He wanted to create such an illusion to make it seem like he was still staying in the hotel. Even if Dr. Benjamin found this place, Dr. Benjamin would find out that Yang Ming and Dong Jun had been staying in the hotel and had never left. In this way, Yang Ming and Dong Jun could do a lot of things secretly. "Okay, there's nothing else. You can go do your work," said Yang Ming waving his hand. "Okay." Batterton nodded respectfully and left the room. Yang Ming and Dong Jun had a sumptuous dinner together and changed into the new clothes sent by Batterton. At this time, Batterton also sent 2 fake ID cards to Yang Ming. After that, the two of them left the room separately and left the Douglas Vast Hotel about an hour apart. There were many guests staying in the Douglas Vast Hotel now. Many of them came to participate in the International Jewelry Festival, and many guests visited each other. So, no one paid attention to Yang Ming and Dong Jun, 2 strangers who suddenly appeared in the hotel. After all, they were leaving the hotel, not entering the hotel. The waiters only cared whether the people who entered the hotel were guests or guests of the hotel. If there was a new guest, they would tell him that there were no vacant rooms. However, they didn't pay much attention to the people who left the hotel. Therefore, Yang Ming and Dong Jun walked out of the hotel casually, and then met in a small street behind the Douglas Vast Hotel. No one paid attention. "It went very smoothly," said Dong Jun. "Okay, let's leave here, find a place to change our hairstyle, and then go directly to our destination," said Yang Ming. So, the two of them casually found a barber shop on the street and changed their hairstyles. After the two of them came out, they were almost completely different from their previous appearances. Yang Ming, are we leaving here now? Asked Dong Jun. Now, Yang Ming had become his backbone. It's not convenient to not have a means of transportation. Yang Ming didn't really want to take a taxi. After all, it was easy to leave clues behind. Hee, watch me. Dong Jun looked around and saw a somewhat shabby old Audi A6 parked at the entrance of an entertainment city. A few people with tattoos on their bodies who were obviously gang members got out of the car and walked into the entertainment city. Dong Jun smiled slightly. This is it. Chapter 2296. Yang Ming almost didn't see how Dong Jun did it. The door was already opened, and Dong Jun started the car naturally. Then, the car turned around and stopped directly beside Yang Ming. These actions were done in one go as if the car was originally Dong Jun's, and he didn't steal it at all. This was because his actions were like the owner of the car opening the door and then starting the car. Although Yang Ming could also do these, it was absolutely impossible to do it as smoothly as Dong Jun. A master thief was indeed a master thief. He was indeed very powerful. Yang Ming opened the door of the front passenger seat and sat in. Then, Dong Jun drove the car and directly disappeared into the night. No one noticed that the car had been stolen. In fact, Dong Jun saw that there was a problem with this car at a glance. This should have been a stolen car originally. The frame number was tampered with. As for the license plate and procedures of this car, he didn't know if they were real or fake. However, these had nothing to do with Dong Jun. The more problematic this car was, the more relieved Dong Jun was. I say, Dong Jun, you are quite skilled, said Yang Ming admiringly. It's just a small trick. It's just my old profession. Dong Jun smiled and said, when we get out of Las Vegas and go to another town, we will destroy this car and get another one to avoid giving ourselves away. Yang Ming nodded and secretly thought that Dong Jun was more thoughtful. The car quickly left the city and drove in the direction that Dong Jun said. However, after passing through two towns, the car that Yang Ming and Dong Jun were driving now ran out of gas. Dong Jun simply didn't plan to refuel. He directly found a deserted place in the wild and directly burned it. Then, he did the same. At the entrance of a nightclub, he stole a suspected stolen car that had been tampered with the frame number. This kind of car mostly belonged to some local underworld members. However, these people's cars were not legitimate. Even if they were lost, no one would call the police. They could only suffer in silence. There was no need to worry about safety. Along the way, they passed through several small towns. The two of them had also changed 4 cars. Other than the old Audi A6 at the beginning, there was also an old Toyota Camry, an old Honda Accord, and the last one was a luxury car. It was a brand new Mercedes-Benz ML350. However, it was most likely a car belonging to a local underground racing gang. Dong Jun dug out more than 10 fake license plates from the trunk of the car. He randomly hung one of them and headed to the destination. This car was estimated to follow the two people for a while, so Dong Jun got it in one step and finally got a relatively good car. Ha, I finally got a better car. Dong Jun drove the ML350 and said with a smile, it's all right. Yang Ming said, your method is good. You are much better than me. When I accept apprentices in the future, I will rely on you to teach them in this aspect. No problem. Ha. Dong Jun smiled. Then it settled. I will be a martial uncle, but isn't my martial uncle a bit bad? A martial nephew is a master thief. I will also teach him to kill. Yang Ming said with a smile, but it's just a casual talk. We will accept apprentices. It may not be a matter of a few years later. That's true. Let's solve the current situation first. Dong Jun nodded and said. Young Ming and Dong Jun drove the car to the front of a motel on the beach of Las Vegas. After parking, they got out of the car. It was like a pair of ordinary friends on a road trip. People who drove like this were everywhere. They wouldn't attract any attention at all. The two of them booked a room in this motel. Naturally, they used fake identities and didn't attract anyone's suspicion. Early the next morning, Young Ming and Dong Jun, like other tourists, changed into casual clothes and then drove away from the motel. They were going to the Las Vegas beach pier. It wasn't far from here. It could be said that it was very close. On the beach of Las Vegas, Young Ming and Dong Jun rented 2 sun umbrellas and a small table. They bought some drinks and snacks and lay on the beach leisurely. They looked very much like tourists enjoying the sun on the beach here because there were many people like them here. However, in fact, Young Ming and Dong Jun's eyes under the sunglasses never stopped. They seemed to be resting leisurely, but in fact, they were observing the speedboats coming and going. According to Dong Jun, the people from Central came ashore here and drove speedboats. As for Young Ming and Dong Jun, they naturally found suspicious characters among these people. The so-called suspicious characters were actually easier to recognize. The people who came ashore from Central were definitely dressed differently from normal tourists. Their clothes were definitely very formal. They weren't like tourists who wore beach casual clothes or swimsuits. Therefore, such people could be found as long as they paid a little attention. Dong Jun also judged based on this situation before. He was a person from Central. Naturally, he knew the dressing style of Central's people and the special logo on their speedboats. Although the Central speedboats were no different from the speedboats driven by normal tourists, Dong Jun understood that the Central speedboats were definitely different from the tourist speedboats. The Central speedboats were modified. The most obvious feature was that they had 2 fuel tanks, a main fuel tank and an auxiliary fuel tank. The tourists drove the speedboats only near the beach and didn't go too far, so they didn't have to worry about running out of fuel. When there was no fuel, they would dock first. However, the Central's island was relatively far from here. 1 tank of fuel might not be enough. If there were some accidents along the way, it would be even more insufficient. Therefore, it was normal to have more fuel tanks. Another obvious difference was speed. The Central speedboat was specially modified. Its speed was very fast. Although it would slow down when approaching the dock area, its speed was very fast. Therefore, as long as they observed a particularly fast speedboat in the distance, they could start to pay attention. If the above conditions were consistent, then it was basically certain that the people on this speedboat were related to Central. However, Young Ming and Dong Jun had been on the beach for 2 consecutive days, but they hadn't seen a speedboat that met this condition. Of course, Young Ming and Dong Jun were not in a hurry. After all, it was impossible for Central to have people coming ashore every day. Even if they came, they might not necessarily take a speedboat every time. If there was a need to purchase a large number of daily necessities, they would still choose a helicopter. Only when Central needed something would they drive a speedboat ashore. Chapter 2297. Of course, a speedboat was easier to identify, but a helicopter was much more difficult. Moreover, they didn't know the exact location of the Central Island. Even if they had a helicopter taking off, Yang Ming couldn't know where the helicopter flew and passed by. Unlike a speedboat, they could only land here. Therefore, the target of the helicopter was a little far away. Yang Ming didn't pay attention to it. He still focused on the speedboats coming and going. For half a month, Young Ming and Dong Jun had been basking in the sun on the beach for half a month. Even if they applied sunscreen, and both of them had better physical fitness, it was still unbearable for them. Sunbathing on the beach was enjoyment, but if they basked in the sun every day from morning to night, it was a kind of pain. It didn't matter if it was boring, but the key was that their skin was tanned into a dark red color, which was really uncomfortable. However, God didn't disappoint those who worked hard. Finally, on the 19th day, Yang Ming finally found a suspicious speedboat approaching from afar. If Yang Ming didn't know the specific location of the central island, Yang Ming even wanted to use his telescopic vision to stare at them to see when they would send a speedboat to monitor their movements at any time. But in the vast sea, how difficult would it be for Yang Ming to search without a target? Therefore, Yang Ming didn't have the idea of using his special ability to search at all. It was too exhausting. It was better to wait here. Didn't the target appear? Dong Jun, there is a speedboat coming from afar. It has 2 fuel tanks, and its speed is very fast. There are 2 people on the speedboat. Although they are wearing casual clothes, they are definitely not the kind of beach casual clothes. They don't look like tourists. The most important thing is that they have food on their speedboat. Yang Ming said slowly to Dong Jun. The speedboats that cruised here naturally had food on them, but they were mainly snacks. There was no regular food like compressed biscuits and canned food. Yang Ming saw that the speedboat had water, compressed biscuits, canned food, and chocolate. They were all food to replenish energy, which was completely different from snacks. Oh. A speedboat is coming. Why didn't I see it? Dong Jun was slightly stunned. He picked up the binoculars on the side and looked into the depths of the sea. It is still hundreds of nautical miles from here. Of course, you can't see it. Yang Ming said, you may not be able to see it with binoculars. Ugh, it is so far away. Dong Jun was shocked, but he immediately thought that Yang Ming had some secrets and special abilities. Was not the time to ask. And, don't be too anxious. According to his speed, it will take a while before he comes, said Yang Ming. Dong Jun nodded. He returned the rented tent and small table with Yang Ming, changed into casual clothes, and then walked in the direction of the dock. Of course, Yang Ming and Dong Jun would not be stupid enough to block the dock and wait for the speedboat to come. They just waited at an open-air beverage plaza near the dock. The 2 people sat at the table, each asked for a drink, and quietly waited for the speedboat to come. It should be almost there, right? Dong Jun could not use binoculars here. After all, this was not the beach but the dock. If he used binoculars here, it would be more eye-catching. It was not like the beach, where people could look into the distance through binoculars. It's almost there. You should be able to see a shadow with the naked eye, said Yang Ming in a low voice. Oh. Dong Jun looked carefully into the distance. Sure enough, he saw a black spot moving quickly toward them. Dong Jun nodded and said, I see it. It should be this, right? Yes. Yang Ming nodded. After the 2 of them get off the boat, we will follow them, but don't alert them. First, we will find out the strength of these 2 people. If they are just ordinary people, then we will directly tie them up and interrogate them. If they are powerful characters, we will find a way to kill one of them and leave the other behind to interrogate. Okay. Dong Jun nodded. Do you need weapons? Dong Jun got a few sniper rifles, but in Yang Ming's view, it was better not to use these heavy weapons unless it was necessary. Although the control of guns here was not very strict, it was better not to use weapons like sniper rifles. It would be troublesome if the local police were attracted. Finally, the speedboat docked. Yang Ming nodded. Dong Jun understood Yang Ming's meaning. He took out a bill from his pocket and paid the bill. Then, together with Yang Ming, they pretended to be tourists who had just finished drinking. They stood up and prepared to leave. In fact, they were monitoring the movements on the speedboat. Two men got off the speedboat. They were about 30 years old. One was tall and thin, and the other was fat but very strong. However, young Ming scanned these two people with his X-ray vision. These two people belonged to the range of normal people. They were not the Iron Men invented by Dr. Benjamin. These two people were probably here to buy something. At least in Yang Ming's view, these two people did not seem to be powerful people. Follow them. Yang Ming said faintly and followed behind these two people. Yang Ming was good at following others. Yang Ming was an assassin. Following the target was his strength. Dong Jun was a master thief. He was naturally good at following others. Therefore, these two people followed behind the two people in front, and they would not be noticed at all. However, what surprised Yang Ming and Dong Jun was that after the two people left the dock, the two people talked for a while, but they separated to act separately. Their conversation was very simple. They said that they would split up to buy things, and then they would meet at this dock in the evening. Then, they each took a taxi and left. What should we do? Dong Jun frowned and asked. Yang Ming quickly made a decision in his heart and said faintly, just follow one of them. Since the other one will return to the dock at night, then we don't need to bother with it for the time being. We will wait here at night to intercept them. Okay. Dong Jun nodded and got in the stolen Mercedes-Benz ML350 with Yang Ming. They quickly followed one of the taxis and went in the direction of the town. These two people came from Central. It should be close. Yang Ming said to Dong Jun after getting in the car. Chapter 2298. Yang Ming was not very sure before, but these two people acted separately as soon as they left the dock. Then, they had to return to the dock at night. From this point, it could be seen that these two people were not tourists returning from the sea. Instead, they came from somewhere else and came to this town for business. Then, they had to go back at night. This town was already a coastal city. In other words, there were no other cities on the sea. In this case, where did these two people come from? Obviously, they should be from an island on the sea. As a result, the identities of these two people were naturally obvious. Of course, if it weren't for Yang Ming and Dong Jun paying special attention to this person, others would not have noticed anything wrong at all. After all, these two people went ashore, bought things, returned to the speedboat, and went out to sea. If one didn't pay attention, it would be difficult to find any flaws. Who would stare at the people coming and going on the dock every day? Yeah, it seems that we are really waiting for two big fish. Dong Jun nodded and said, when are we going to catch them? Wait and see what he wants to buy. Yang Ming was a little curious about what this person wanted to buy in this area. Okay. Dong Jun drove the car and followed behind unhurriedly. The person in front didn't notice that someone was following behind him. The taxi stopped at the door of a chemical supplies store. The person paid the money, got out of the taxi, and walked into the store. Buying chemicals. Yang Ming looked at the person who walked into the store and said, why does the center buy these things? Has the research direction changed? I don't know, but according to my information channel, Dr. Benjamin recently had the idea of researching biohumans. Steel Man was defeated by you two in a row. Although he doesn't know that you defeated him, in his opinion, this thing is very flawed, so he is going to research biohumans. Dong Jun said, of course, this is just my news. I don't know whether it is true or not. If it's really like what you said, then it seems to be true. Yang Ming nodded. Biochemical human. This Dr. Benjamin is really daring. I just don't know if this is his idea on the spur of the moment because he thinks that Steel Man is flawed, or he has been planning to research it since long ago. Otherwise, why has Dr. Benjamin been looking for me in Suya? He must have taken a fancy to my special ability and wanted to apply it to biohumans. In other words, Dr. Benjamin wants to create a super monster that is a combination of biohumans and Steel Man. Thinking of this possibility, Yang Ming frowned. This Dr. Benjamin is more terrifying than I thought. It seems that it is also good to kill him as soon as possible, lest this guy really succeeds in his research and runs out to harm people. The person from the center entered the chemical store and stayed inside for about an hour. Yang Ming and Dong Jun were a little impatient. If Yang Ming didn't see this guy buying things in the store with his X-ray vision, Yang Ming would even think that this guy escaped from the back door. However, Yang Ming was very clear about the situation in the store. This person bought a lot of things. It was a long list. Although he didn't buy a lot of chemicals and reagents, there were a lot of different kinds of things. It was a mess that added up to hundreds of things. No wonder it took so long. As a matter of fact, it took a lot of time to separate each kind of medicine. Finally, this person walked out of the chemical store with a big box. It seemed that he was waiting for a taxi, but Yang Ming and Dong Jun didn't give him a chance to wait. After Dong Jun saw him coming out, he directly drove the car over and parked it next to him. Then, he and Yang Ming quickly got out of the car. Dong Jun directly took the box of chemicals from the person's hand and put it in the trunk of the car. Yang Ming also directly pushed the person into the car. The two cooperated well. These things were done in one go. It was as if the person in the center was waiting for Yang Ming and Dong Jun. One helped him carry the things, and the other helped him open the car door and enthusiastically pushed him into the car. Even if someone saw it, they wouldn't be suspicious. In fact, this person was also stunned. How could he be robbed and pushed into a car when he went out? When he reacted, he was already sitting in the car. He wanted to speak, but Yang Ming casually raised his hand and poked him a few times. So, he couldn't move or speak. This person was an ordinary person. Yang Ming didn't know if he knew Kung Fu, but at least he wasn't Iron Man, so this person was also afraid of acupuncture. Yang Ming restrained him as soon as he got into the car. He was also afraid that he would scream, so he directly restrained him so that he couldn't move and speak. Done. Dong Jun closed the door and got into the car. He clapped his hands and smiled at Yang Ming. Then he started the car and disappeared from the door of the chemical store. The person in the center looked at Yang Ming and Dong Jun in the car in horror. He didn't know who they were and why they kidnapped him. Was it for money or something else? But now he couldn't speak, and he couldn't ask. He could only sulk and be very depressed. Yang Ming wasn't in a hurry to talk to this person. Although there was a dark film on the window, and the situation inside the car couldn't be seen clearly from the outside, after all, this was in the city. It was better to be careful. Dong Jun drove the car directly to an industrial area near the town. There was an abandoned steel factory that hadn't been built yet. It was currently in a deserted state. This was a good place for Yang Ming and Dong Jun to investigate in advance. No one would disturb here, and they didn't have to worry about problems. This guy doesn't have a tracker and tapping device on him, right? Dong Jun asked carefully. Yes, but I threw it away. Yang Ming said faintly. Yang Ming had X-ray vision. When this guy got in the car, he threw the tracker and tapping device out of the car while pressing his acupuncture points. That's good. Dong Jun nodded. Then he drove the car into the abandoned factory without any scruples. Get out of the car. Yang Ming took the person in his hand and got out of the car directly. Then, he unsealed his acupuncture points and threw him on the ground. Dong Jun didn't get out of the car but sat in the car. He wasn't good at interrogating these people, so it was better to leave this to Yang Ming. His main task now was to observe the nearby movement. Chapter 2299. At the entrance of this abandoned factory, Dong Jun had installed a wireless camera before. Through the image signal transmitted by the wireless camera, Dong Jun could receive it in the car. He could observe whether there was anyone nearby at any time. After all, what they were doing couldn't be exposed. If someone came, Dong Jun could warn Yang Ming in advance and let him leave quickly. Although Yang Ming had X-ray vision and could also pay attention to the situation at the gate at any time, Yang Ming's main energy was now focused on interrogating the central person in front of him. Naturally, he didn't want to divide his energy to do other things. "You, who are you? Why did you kidnap me?" After the central person's acupuncture point was unsealed, he looked at Yang Ming with some horror. He wasn't stupid. He could see that Yang Ming wasn't an ordinary person, because how could an ordinary person know how to seal acupuncture points? She casually touched him a few times, and he couldn't move or speak. How frightening was this? Kidnapping you naturally has a purpose. What did you buy those chemicals for? Yang Ming didn't answer the central person's question directly, but asked back. I bought chemicals. Of course, it was to do a chemical experiment. Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? I don't seem to have offended you, right? The central person said, did I break the law by buying chemicals? You let me go, and this matter will be over. Otherwise, I will call the police. When the central person heard that Yang Ming was only asking about chemicals, he felt confident in his heart. Call the police. Whatever. I don't know if the police will arrest you if they know that you are a central person and Dr. Benjamin's subordinate. Yang Ming looked at the person in front of him and said sarcastically. You, who the hell are you? How do you know about Central? At this moment, the central person's eyes were full of panic and disbelief. He didn't expect Yang Ming to see through his identity. Of course, he wasn't stupid enough to deny it. Since Yang Ming said his identity, and even called out Dr. Benjamin's name, it was obvious that Yang Ming was a person who knew Central. Otherwise, how could he know these things? Yang Ming nodded slightly. This person exposed his inner thoughts in this nervous moment. It seemed that his judgment was right. This person really came from Central. Yang Ming saw through his thoughts. Of course, I am Dr. Benjamin's enemy. Yang Ming said faintly, if you don't want to suffer unnecessary pain, tell the truth. I have nothing to say. Just kill me. The person in the center was resolute. He snorted and then sat on the ground like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. He didn't say anything. Oh, looks like you won't cry until you see the coffin. The central person naturally didn't believe Yang Ming's threat. If he didn't say it now, would he beg him to say it later? Am I so brainless? That's not brainless, but cerebral palsy. Well, I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it, said Yang Ming faintly. There's no need to think about it. Just kill me. The central person was determined not to say anything even if he was beaten to death. If he said the central secret, then he would be the one to die after going back. Maybe he would die even more miserably. Dr. Benjamin would lock him up for human experiments and biochemical modification. That would be worse than death. Therefore, he thought that if he died at this time, he would die. If he didn't die, Dr. Benjamin could continue to use him. This is your own choice. I hope you don't regret it. Yang Ming saw that the person in front of him was very stubborn, so he didn't try to persuade him again. He directly reached out and tapped him a few times. Then, he moved aside and sat down, leaving this person alone. The central person was puzzled at first. Was Yang Ming afraid that he would run away, so he tapped his acupoints again so that he couldn't move or speak. Was this the so-called punishment? But in the next moment, he understood that things were not so simple because what happened next was simply too painful for him. Ouch! The central person screamed and rolled on the ground. He only felt as if there were countless ants biting his skin. He couldn't move his hands, and he couldn't stop the itch. He could only keep rolling back and forth on the ground to relieve the pain. What's going on? Could it be that he had poisoned himself? Or, at this point, the central person finally understood what was called fearless pain. It was simply worse than death. He rolled back and forth on the ground, but it didn't have much effect. He wailed and screamed in pain, too noisy. Yang Ming frowned and tapped the central person again. He tapped his mute acupoint so that he couldn't make a sound. Even if he was in pain, he could only make a hiss sound. The central person was full of fear. Needless to say about the physical pain, the psychological pain at this moment was even more horrifying. Not only was he extremely uncomfortable, but he couldn't make any sound. Who is this person in front of me? How can he have such a method? He said that he was the central person's enemy. Since he could be called an enemy, he must have similar methods as Dr. Benjamin. Dr. Benjamin studied human potential experiments, so it was common sense that Yang Ming could casually create this pain for him. Thinking of this, the central person felt sad. It seemed that Yang Ming's method of punishing people was not worse than Dr. Benjamin's. It seemed to be more painful and terrifying. At least, he was really worse than death now. He wanted Yang Ming to kill him and end him. He even wanted to end his own life, but his hands couldn't move. He couldn't die even if he wanted to. He really couldn't die even if he wanted to. Yang Ming said that he hoped that he wouldn't regret it, but at this moment, he really regretted it. It was so painful. He wanted to die. However, Yang Ming seemed to see through his thoughts. He struck again and tapped twice on his body. This time, the central person could make a sound and continued to scream. How is it? Do you want to continue or cooperate with me obediently? Answer what I ask. Yang Ming asked faintly. I answer. I answer. Let me go first. I beg you. Ah. It's too painful. The central person roared in pain. Okay, but if you don't cooperate, then I can only give you something worse. As Yang Ming spoke, he patted the person in the center twice, and the person in the center returned to normal. Oh. Chapter 2300. Who? The person in the center breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, Yang Ming's means almost killed him. At this time, he felt that his whole body was unspeakably relaxed. When he wiped his forehead, it was already full of sweat. Previously, it was like a horrible torture in hell. It made him frightened. He hated Yang Ming in his heart. After he saw Yang Ming unseal his acupoints, he didn't stop him from wiping his sweat. He suddenly had a plan. He wanted to take advantage of Yang Ming's lax state to kill him. When this bold idea came out, the person in the center was shocked, but he still decided to take the risk. He felt that if he said it, he would die. If he didn't say it, he would also die. It was better to drag someone down with him before he died. Therefore, the person in the center suddenly pulled out a delicate small pistol from his body and shot at Yang Ming. Bang! A muffled sound of a bullet being fired sounded. A bullet broke through the air and shot on Yang Ming's chest. Yang Ming didn't dodge. He just looked and let the bullet hit him. The person in the center took out a small lipstick pistol. This kind of pistol was easy to carry, but the disadvantage was that there was only one bullet in it. It could only be used once. After it was used up, it would be useless. However, the person in the center was still very confident in his marksmanship. This was because he felt that even the fastest person wouldn't be able to dodge his shot. Shooting at such a close range, under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to dodge. But for Yang Ming, it was actually not a problem. Yang Ming, who was proficient in the butterfly microstep, could still easily dodge this attack. However, Yang Ming didn't dodge at all. Instead, he let the bullet hit his body. Yang Ming wanted this effect. He had already seen that the person in the center was more stubborn. He was a tough bone. If he wanted to convince him, he must come up with some means. Otherwise, it was really difficult to make him give in. Yang Ming actually saw the lipstick pistol on him before, but Yang Ming didn't take it away. The trackers and bugs on his body couldn't hide from Yang Ming. How could a lipstick pistol escape from Yang Ming's eyes? Yang Ming's X-ray vision even scanned the place on his body. How could he miss it? The bullet shot on Yang Ming's body, but it was bounced off. It didn't enter Yang Ming's body at all. You are wearing a bulletproof vest. The person in the center was shocked. Looking at the safe and sound Yang Ming, he suddenly frowned. He looked at Yang Ming with some surprise and asked nervously. Bulletproof vest. Yang Ming shrugged and unbuttoned his jacket. There was nothing inside except a shirt, and the shirt was also pierced by the bullet. The skin of Yang Ming's chest could be vaguely seen. You are also a steel man. The person in the center was shocked. Oh. He subconsciously thought that Yang Ming was the same as the steel man invented by Dr. Benjamin. He had Jean Gang's indestructible body. You know the steel man too. Yang Ming looked at the person in the center in front of him with a smile. I am not a steel man. I killed 2 steel men. You killed them. In the eyes of the person in the center, there was suddenly a look of understanding. It seems that your status in the center is not low. You know about the steel man, and you know that 2 of them were killed, asked Yang Ming. So what? My status is indeed not low, but it is not high. The secrets I know are limited. If you want to get more useful information from me, it is probably impossible. The person in the center said with some resignation. Since Yang Ming was not even afraid of bullets and knew some secrets in the center, it was estimated that he knew about the same things as himself. Then he did not have to hide it. It was meaningless. What is your name? What are you responsible for in the center? How many people are there in the center? Besides Dr. Benjamin, who is in charge, asked Yang Ming. My name is Shen Laoshi. In the center, I am responsible for purchasing some chemical reagents and chemicals. The person in the center said truthfully, although I am a relatively core figure in the center, I really don't know how many people there are in the center. You don't know? Yang Ming frowned, looked straight at Shen Laoshi and asked, Shen Laoshi. I think you are really dishonest. Well, in fact, I estimate that there should be more than 100 people. Shen Laoshi nodded helplessly, but it is just my estimate. For the specific number, you should ask another person. His status is higher than mine. He is Dr. Benjamin's student. As for whether there are other people in charge in the center, I don't know. The person in charge of the highest position we can reach is Dr. Benjamin. He is currently in charge of everything in the center. Another person. Yang Ming frowned, the person who came with you. He is Dr. Benjamin's student? Yes. Shen Laoshi nodded. What is his name? What is his purpose for coming ashore with you this time? Yang Ming was a little regretful. He seemed to have followed the wrong person. If he had followed another person, he would have gotten more information. But it was too late to regret now. He could only try to get as much information from this person as possible. Yang Ming planned to capture one and release the other. The one he captured, he would force some information out of him and then kill him. At least for the time being, he would not let Dr. Benjamin know about his and Dong Jun's existence. Moreover, he had also revealed a lot of information in front of Honest Jin. For example, he was invulnerable and had killed 2 steel men. This Shen Laoshe was definitely going to die. As for the other person, Yang Ming wanted to keep an eye on him while he was driving the speedboat back. He wanted to see the specific location of the island where the center was so that he could make the next step of the plan. But now it seemed that he should catch that person and release this person. If he couldn't, he could only catch the other person and kill them together. As for the location of the center island, he could only rely on the person in front of him. His name is Een Siren. His purpose this time is to catch a few test subjects. Shen Laoshe said. Test subjects. Yang Ming frowned. Just some local hooligans. We catch them for experiments. Even if these people disappear, no one will suspect, Shen Laoshe said. Okay, you draw the name and location of the center island for me. I will give you a quick death, Yang Ming said. The center island has a name. In fact, it doesn't have a name, but Dr. Benjamin called it Firewolf Island. As for the location, I don't know. Shen Laoshe smiled bitterly. Chapter 2301. You don't know. Yang Ming stared at Jin Honest, wanting to get some information from his mind, but Yang Ming was disappointed. Shin Honest was really scared by Yang Ming's gaze. He was afraid that Yang Ming would use the previous method to deal with him again. But Yang Ming also read important information from his mind, that was, Shin Honest was not lying. What he said was true. He really didn't know the exact location of Firewolf Island. There is an automatic cruise chip in the speedboat. As long as we enter our fingerprint verification and press the forward or return button, the speedboat will automatically start and move according to the route map. The route inside is the most perfect route, and there is generally no risk. Shin Honest explained, even if there is a problem, and we manually deviate from the route, the positioning chip in the speedboat will automatically let the speedboat enter the correct route again according to the current coordinates. So every time we do this, we don't know the exact location, so that's the case. I believe you. Yang Ming nodded. This time, Shin Honest was honest and didn't lie. He really didn't know the exact location of Firewolf Island. Originally, Yang Ming planned to use the same method to capture Een Siren and then interrogate him, but now it seemed impossible. Yang Ming still counted on him to drive the speedboat back and guide him to Firewolf Island, so he had to keep him. Phew, that's good. Shin Honest breathed a sigh of relief. If Yang Ming didn't believe him and hit him again like that, then he would really want to die. What else do you know? Tell me. Yang Ming said. I don't know anything else. I am only responsible for helping Dr. Benjamin purchase some experimental supplies, Shin Honest said. I'm not in charge of the other things either. The secrets that I can access are very limited, Shin said honestly. Yang Ming nodded. In that case, I will give you a quick death. Thank you. Shen Laoshe smiled in relief. He had been working under Dr. Benjamin at the Central, so he had long been prepared to die. He also knew that this day would come sooner or later. Therefore, when Yang Ming wanted to kill him, he was very calm and indifferent. Yang Ming casually waved his hand and ended Jin Honest. For people like this who didn't have much strength, Yang Ming could easily kill them, and it was even easier when there was no resistance. Although Dong Jun was relatively far away from Yang Ming, he heard the conversation between Yang Ming and Jin Honest clearly. Seeing Jin Honest being ended by Yang Ming, he got out of the car. We made a mistake, we should have caught the other person. It doesn't matter. Yang Ming waved his hand, but he didn't regret it too much. He just said, that person is Dr. Benjamin's student. Although he may know more than Jin Laoshe, it is estimated that it is all academic stuff. For example, Dr. Benjamin's research results and so on. However, these things are not very useful to us. We are not stealing his technology. That's true. Dong Jun nodded and asked, then let's go back to the dock and wait for that siren. However, if he can't wait for Jin Honest, will he suspect something and alert the enemy and not return to Firewolf Island? Don't worry about that. If he realizes that he can't contact Jin Honest, he will definitely run away immediately. Yang Ming said with a smile, if it were you, what would you do immediately when you realize that your companion is missing? Would you just sit here and wait for death? That's true, I am overthinking it. Dong Jun thought about it and nodded. Indeed, if it were a normal person, the first thing to do would be to run away when their companion was missing. If they kept waiting at the dock, wouldn't they be a fool? If they ran to the sea, they would be free to do anything. There was nothing to worry about. After all, on the sea, the speed of a speedboat was faster than other ordinary speedboats. As long as no one was following them, everything would be fine. Yang Ming disposed of Jin Honest's body and drove back to the dock with Dong Jun. Yang Ming glanced at the speedboat position at the dock and found that Siren's speedboat was still there and had not left. He breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Siren's matter was not over yet. However, it made sense when he thought about it. Jin Honest only went to buy things, while Siren went to catch some hooligans. Naturally, he took much more time than Jin Honest. Even if Yang Ming caught Jin Honest for a long time, Siren's matter was probably not over yet. Yang Ming and Dong Jun still sat in front of an open-air beverage shop. They ordered a few drinks and some snacks and ate leisurely. Sure enough, it was not until the evening that Siren returned to the dock in a shabby-looking pickup truck. The pickup truck was not there before, and it seemed to be hired. After Siren got off, he and the driver of the pickup truck moved a few large boxes from the back of the pickup truck. Yang Ming glanced at them and found that the boxes were filled with unconscious hooligans. Of course, the driver of the pickup truck did not know this. Yang Ming did not care about the life and death of these hooligans. Whether they died or not had nothing to do with Yang Ming. Siren watched them move the boxes onto the speedboat. Then, he gave the pickup truck driver some money, and the pickup truck driver drove away. Siren stood beside the speedboat at the dock and took out his phone to make a call. However, Jin Honest's phone had been turned off by Yang Ming, so Siren naturally couldn't get through. Hearing the notification tone on the phone, Siren's face changed slightly. It became a little gloomy and strange. He frowned and paced back and forth. He picked up the phone again and dialed Jin Honest's number, but it was still turned off. Siren had no choice but to call Dr. Benjamin's phone. Doctor, I am Siren. Dr. Benjamin's phone was quickly connected. Siren said. What's wrong? What happened? Dr. Benjamin asked, didn't I tell you? When you are outside, try not to call me. I can't contact Jin Honest. We agreed to meet at the dock at night, and he should be faster than me, but he did not appear at the dock, and his phone was turned off. Said Siren. Then don't worry about him. You immediately take the speedboat back and see if anyone is following you. If someone is following you, contact me immediately. Dr. Benjamin immediately made a decision, but he did not finish what he was going to say to Siren. If someone was following them, Dr. Benjamin would remotely activate the self-destruct device of the speedboat, burying both the speedboat and Siren in the sea. Chapter 2302. Dr. Benjamin was a ruthless person. He would rather sacrifice Siren, his student, than simply let others discover the location of the island at the center. Yes, Doctor. After Siren finished speaking, he hung up the phone and boarded the speedboat. After verifying his fingerprints, he started the speedboat. The speedboat automatically began to move in the direction of Fire Wolf Island. Yang Ming clearly saw the conversation between Ian Siren and Dr. Benjamin. However, Yang Ming didn't know what Dr. Benjamin said, but he didn't need to figure it out. He just needed to know that Ian Siren was going to return to the center. Yang Ming smiled faintly and locked his eyes on Ian Siren's speedboat. How is it? Is there any problem? Dong Jun saw that Ian Siren's speedboat turned into a black line and finally became a black spot disappearing in the place between the sea and the sky, so he asked with some concern. No. Yang Ming said, I have been watching him. Order some food and drinks. Let's have dinner here. It will probably take a long time for him to reach Fire Wolf Island. Okay. When Dong Jun heard Yang Ming say so, he suddenly felt relieved. He called the waiter over and ordered a lot of fast food. The two people drank and ate fast food at the table. Dong Jun didn't ask for beer. He was afraid that drinking too much would cause trouble. However, what surprised Dong Jun was that Yang Ming didn't keep staring in the direction of Ian Siren's boat. Instead, after the waiter served the food, he started to eat. This situation made Dong Jun feel very strange. He couldn't help but ask, Yang Ming, aren't you looking at Ian Siren's side? I'm looking. I've been looking. Although Yang Ming said so, he continued to eat the hamburger without looking up. His eyes were looking at the food. He didn't look in the distance at all. This made Dong Jun a little speechless. He didn't know what to say. This. Dong Jun looked at Yang Ming's appearance and didn't know what to say. Although he believed that Yang Ming wouldn't lie, he was also afraid that Yang Ming would really lose sight of Ian Siren. After all, this was a rare opportunity. It was not easy to wait for the people from Central and kill one of them. After Ian Siren went back this time, Dr. Benjamin would not easily send people out of Central again in a short time. It would be even more difficult to find the location of Central then. As a matter of fact, although Dong Jun was from Central, he had never been to Central's headquarters. Even when he met Dr. Benjamin, it was at a branch base, so in Dong Jun's view, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't worry. How can you not trust me when I do things? Yang Ming asked with a smile. That's true. Dong Jun thought about it and felt that he was overthinking things. Who was Yang Ming? He was an extremely cautious person. Dong Jun and Huang Yukai repeatedly tried to harm him but failed. Yang Ming naturally had an extraordinary ability. Otherwise, it was impossible to always maintain the posture of a victor. Thinking of this, Dong Jun was relieved and ate with Yang Ming. Until 11 o'clock in the evening, there were not many people at the dock. Except for Yang Ming and Dong Jun, there were only a table of drunkards left. The owner of the booth came over and politely said to Yang Ming and Dong Jun, "Two guests, my booth is about to close. Is there anything else you need?" "For more bottles of juice," said Yang Ming. "Also, 2 drumsticks and 2 sandwiches." Dong Jun knew that Yang Ming might be prepared to stay up all night, so he ordered some food and then asked, "You are closing. Is it okay for us to continue to eat here and watch the night view?" "Naturally, there is no problem." After the boss wrote down the needs of Dong Jun and Yang Ming, he instructed the waiter to prepare and said, "You can stay here until dawn. My place is a resting place for sailors and merchants waiting for ships at the dock. You see, there are a few sailors at that table. Their ship will arrive in the early morning, so they have to wait here until midnight." It turned out to be like this. Dong Jun glanced at the table of drunkards in the direction pointed by the boss and nodded. "It's just that I am closing, and the sea breeze here is very cold at night. I suggest that you two drink to warm your body." The boss shrugged and said, although it is not very cold here. Alright, just get whatever you want. Thank you. Yang Ming did not refute but said to the boss. Okay. The boss was happy that he managed to sell some more drinks, so he turned around and went to prepare them. As for Yang Ming and Dong Jun, they continued to sit at the table and eat and drink out of boredom. They were not like the other table of drunkards who were loudly joking, saying vulgar words, and telling vulgar stories. Yang Ming and Dong Jun were going to do something very confidential. Even though there was no one around, they were still very careful, just like two ordinary guests drinking alone. In the middle of the night, a ship docked at the dock. The table of drunkards stood up one after another, patted their buttocks and left. When they left, they did not look at Yang Ming and Dong Jun obviously. They were used to waiting for a ship in the middle of the night, and they did not care much about the table next to them. After they left, only Yang Ming and Dong Jun were left. How is it? Dong Jun asked. I don't know, but it should be here soon. It seems that the second tank of fuel is almost used up. Yang Ming said. That's good. Dong Jun nodded. Sure enough, we're almost there. Yang Ming smiled and said, I vaguely saw an island, but it was dark and there were no lights. Yang Ming estimated that Siren should be here soon. After all, when Dr. Benjamin designed the speedboat, it was impossible to design the fuel tank perfectly without any leeway. That was impossible. After all, accidents during the voyage had to be considered, so it was reasonable to leave a small half-tank of fuel in the end. Oh. An island in complete darkness. No lights. Dong Jun was slightly stunned. It can't be, right? In my impression, the center should be located on a technologically advanced island that is brightly lit day and night. How can it be pitch black? Hee hee. I see. After Yang Ming listened to Dong Jun's words, he smiled. On the surface it is like this, but there is another world in the interior. This island is a deserted island on the surface. There are some jungles and reefs on the island, but there is another world under the island. Even under the sea within 1 nautical mile of the island, there is another world. This seabed and under the island is a base. Chapter 2303. What? You even noticed this? Dong Jun was shocked when he heard Yang Ming's words. He didn't expect Yang Ming to be able to see this. Isn't this Yang Ming a bit too powerful? Hee hee, as I said, I have some special abilities. Naturally, I can see it. Yang Ming smiled and said, even if I don't look in that direction, I can lock onto Siren. No matter how I look, I can always pay attention to him. That is to say, even if we return to the previous motel, you can still monitor him. Dong Jun was stunned and then asked. That's right. Yang Ming nodded. Then what are we still doing here? Dong Jun asked strangely. Hee hee, don't you think this is a very leisurely life? I was too nervous before. Now I can finally sit by the sea and eat and drink. This kind of life is very good. Yang Ming said with a smile. I'm going to faint. Dong Jun was speechless. Why didn't you say so earlier? You made me very nervous. Eating is like chewing wax. There is no taste at all. How can I be in the mood to be leisurely? Didn't I say it earlier? I can track Siren. There is no problem, but you didn't believe me. Yang Ming said. I didn't believe it. Instead, I was worried. I wasted an entire afternoon. Dong Jun said with a bitter face. Who asked you not to believe me? Yang Ming laughed. Forget it. What should we do now? Asked Dong Jun. Nothing. Yang Ming said, since we already know where their headquarters base is, there is no need to worry. Now, the most important thing is to study how to deal with them. This is a key point. This base is so heavily guarded according to what you said. In other words, the base should have very high security measures, right? Dong-jun immediately thought of this. If we go rashly, we probably won't know how we died. There are some high-tech things like cannons hidden at the bottom of the sea. There are also some cannons hidden in the jungle of Fire Wolf Island, but they are disguised very well. From the outside, you can't tell that they are weapons. Yang Ming said, if I hadn't been able to see their internal structure, I would have thought that it was a deserted island. That's right. No wonder we couldn't find any abnormalities on the satellite map. It turns out that it's so secretive. Dong-jun sighed in amazement. Dr. Benjamin's technological level is advanced. It's not surprising that he can create such a base. Yang Ming said, let's go back to sleep, and then think of a way. That's good, I can finally have a good night's sleep. Dong-jun finished the last drumstick and threw the trash on the table into the trash can. He got into the car in the parking lot and went straight to the motel they were staying at, Center, Fire Wolf Island. After the speedboat entered the range of Fire Wolf Island, it actually drove half a circle around Fire Wolf Island. Suddenly, it hit a steep stone wall on Fire Wolf Island. However, just as the speedboat was about to hit the stone wall of Fire Wolf Island, a cave suddenly appeared on the stone wall of Fire Wolf Island. The speedboat quickly drove in, and the cave closed again, turning into a steep stone wall. No abnormality could be seen from the outside. The speedboat had entered the interior of Fire Wolf Island. This was the center base. It looked ordinary on the outside, but it was a different world on the inside. After Dr. Benjamin heard that Jin Laoshi had disappeared, he was a little worried. So, when the speedboat returned, he looked left and right. He investigated the dozens of nautical miles around Fire Wolf Island for a long time. He didn't find any tracking ships or planes. He also confirmed that there were no monitoring, or positioning devices on the speedboat. Only then did Dr. Benjamin feel relieved and put the speedboat into the center base. He didn't expect that Yang Ming would quietly monitor everything here while eating hamburgers and drinking drinks at the distant dock. After returning to the base, Yin Siren breathed a sigh of relief. Jin Laoshi's disappearance was too strange. Until now, he still didn't know why Jin Laoshi disappeared. Was it an accident, or was someone watching the center? If it was the first possibility, it would be better. If it was the second possibility, it would be a little troublesome. In fact, Dr. Benjamin was also thinking about this problem. He had already located Jin Laoshi's current location through the positioning device, but the position shown on the positioning device was actually the entrance of the chemical shop. Moreover, the positioning device hadn't moved for a few hours. So, the only possibility was that the tracking device on Jin Laoshi's body was found and thrown away. So, this was probably not an accident. It wasn't an ordinary person who took Jin Laoshi. If it was just a gangster, it would be impossible to find the tracking device on Jin Laoshi's body. Jin Laoshi's tracking device was found at the entrance of the chemical shop, which proved that the other party was very experienced and professional. This was not something an ordinary person could do. Who could it be? Dr. Benjamin frowned. There shouldn't be any problems at his base. Dr. Benjamin had built it to be impenetrable. Usually, other than Dr. Benjamin himself, no one could casually contact the outside world. In other words, Jin Laoshi and Yin Siren's departure today was a last-minute decision. No outsider could have known about it. Jin Laoshi's trip to the chemical shop was also a last-minute decision. No one could have known. Unless someone saw Jin Laoshi and Yin Siren come ashore together at the dock and followed them to the chemical shop to capture Jin Laoshi. But that didn't make sense. If those people captured Jin Laoshi, why didn't they capture Ian Siren as well? And why didn't they make a move when the two of them came ashore? Even if they didn't have time to make a move, after capturing Jin Laoshi, wouldn't they return to the dock to wait for Ian Siren to come back and capture him again? This matter was extremely strange, and Dr. Benjamin had an inexplicable feeling. He did not even know about the potential enemy. For the first time, he felt frustrated. All this time, Dr. Benjamin had been the mastermind in Central. It had always been others who were afraid of him, not the other way around. But now, two men of steel had disappeared, Dong Jun had betrayed him, and Jin Laoshi had gone missing, Dong Jun. Dr. Benjamin suddenly thought of the name Dong Jun. Could this matter have something to do with Dong Jun? Although Dong Jun hadn't personally come to Central's base, Fire Wolf Island, Dong Jun was familiar with many of the outer members of Central. Chapter 2304. Among them, there were people who had been to Central. Although these people did not know the specific route to Central, they knew that they landed at the Las Vegas Beach Pier. So, if Dong Jun investigated carefully, he should be able to find out this secret. In that case, today's incident, Jin Laoshi's disappearance, may be related to Dong Jun. His people in Songjiang City had sent news that Dong Jun had left Songjiang City. His people had also investigated that Dong Jun took a plane to Las Vegas under a fake name. Could it really be Dong Jun? Thinking of this, Dr. Benjamin's face became extremely gloomy. Dong Jun is so bold. He even dares to arrest people from Central. It seems that he not only turned traitor, but he also wants to go against Central. In the past, Central did not lack some defectors, but after these people escaped from Central, they chose to hide. They could not wait to avoid Central's sphere of influence. Who dared to be like Dong Jun? Not only did he not hide, but he also dared to go to Central's landing beach to arrest people. This was simply too audacious. In fact, Dr. Benjamin really had no one to suspect, so he finally suspected Dong Jun. If Dong Jun did not happen to come to Las Vegas, he would not have thought of Dong Jun so quickly. Right. Dr. Benjamin suddenly realized that he seemed to have overlooked a person, a very important person. This person was Yang Ming. Thinking of Yang Ming, Dr. Benjamin immediately found an assistant and said to him, "Ask the people in Songjiang City what Yang Ming has been doing recently. Investigate." "Yes, Doctor." The assistant responded immediately. Dr. Benjamin, on the other hand, walked to another room. Ian Siren had returned. He wanted to see Ian Siren in person and ask about today's situation. Ian Siren had already asked others to take out and lock up the few punks who were caught as test subjects. When he saw Dr. Benjamin coming in, he quickly stood up and said respectfully, "Doctor, you are here. And, how is it? What's going on today? Tell me in detail what happened to you today." Dr. Benjamin asked with a frown. "Yes, Doctor." Ian Siren didn't dare to be negligent. He nodded seriously and said, "The situation was like this. Shen Honest and I drove the speedboat. After we docked at the Las Vegas Beach Pier, we split up according to the plan. He went to buy chemicals, and I went to catch people." With that said, Ian Siren told Dr. Benjamin everything that happened today. "What's wrong with that?" After Dr. Benjamin listened to Ian Siren's words, he suddenly frowned. He carefully recalled what Ian Siren did today several times. Although something happened to Jin Laoshi, at least Ian Siren followed the plan and carried it out step by step. There was no problem. In the end, he even successfully captured a few hooligans and brought them back. This was all going according to his plan. But now, things were not right. Why was Ian Siren so successful, but Shen Laoshi had a problem? If Shen Laoshi was really captured by Dong Jun, then why didn't Dong Jun capture Een Siren? Een Siren was not a master. He was just his student and scientific assistant. It should be very easy for Dong Jun to subdue him. Could it be that he suspected the wrong person? Zhen Laoshe was not captured by Dong Jun. It was not that Dr. Benjamin was not confident, but he really couldn't find a reason for Dong Jun to let Een Siren go. Yang Ming didn't know that his plan to release the tiger back to the mountain had caused so much confusion to Dr. Benjamin. If he knew, Yang Ming would probably laugh himself to death. In fact, Yang Ming was also monitoring Dr. Benjamin and Een Siren, but Yang Ming couldn't see Dr. Benjamin's thoughts. Yeah, I don't think there is any problem. Een Siren also said with some confusion. Forget it. You can go first. I will think about it myself. Dr. Benjamin didn't find anything suspicious, so he waved his hand and asked Een Siren to leave first. Yes, doctor. Een Siren quickly and respectfully left. Dr. Benjamin, on the other hand, slowly closed his eyes and began to think in his room. Yang Ming knew that he couldn't see anything useful today, so he didn't bother to waste energy to pay attention to Dr. Benjamin. Instead, he went back to the hotel with Dong Jun and had a good sleep. In the next half a month, Dr. Benjamin didn't make a move. He didn't send anyone out again. It seemed that he was not in a hurry to buy the chemicals. Every day, he did experiments with some assistants and students. For Yang Ming, although what Dr. Benjamin did was boring, Yang Ming still often took time to monitor. However, Dr. Benjamin and those students and assistants had been doing experiments. It seemed that there was nothing else to do except for experiments. This made Yang Ming very depressed. What is Dr. Benjamin doing? Dong Jun would occasionally ask Yang Ming every day. It seemed that he was reminding Yang Ming to monitor Dr. Benjamin. In fact, he was curious himself. He wanted to see what Dr. Benjamin was doing at this moment. Doing experiments. Yang Ming said. Yang Ming didn't know how many times he had said the same answer. Dong Jun rolled his eyes and smiled bitterly. Is he still doing experiments? Dr. Benjamin is doing experiments every day. Is he just going to forget about what happened before? He doesn't care about it anymore. Who knows? But I don't see him studying it again. Yang Ming smiled bitterly. Maybe we missed some details when we were sleeping, but they are definitely not important details. I'm afraid that it's not that Dr. Benjamin doesn't want to continue the next step, but he doesn't dare to act rashly before he determines who the potential enemy is. It turns out to be like this. Dong Jun nodded. Then we should keep waiting. Let's keep waiting. Dr. Benjamin will definitely not wait. Without those experimental drugs and materials, he will send someone to buy them. It's just that the previous incident made him a little scared, so he didn't dare to act rashly. Yang Ming guessed. That's right. He has no experimental supplies, so he has to buy them. Dong Jun agreed. However, before Dr. Benjamin sent someone out to buy things, his men brought back news from Songjiang City. Yang Ming was also missing. What? Yang Ming is also missing. Where did he go? Dr. Benjamin didn't expect Yang Ming to disappear as soon as he came back from Miaojiang. Chapter 2305. Thinking of this, Dr. Benjamin's face changed. It seemed that not paying attention to Yang Ming was a big mistake. I'm not sure. Yang Ming shouldn't have left the country using his own identity, the underling said. After all, Yang Ming is from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. They have other special identities that we can't find out. Dr. Benjamin nodded. Could it be that not only Dong Jun, but also Yang Ming is involved? The underling didn't know what to say, and he didn't know how to answer. All right, I got it. You can go now. Dr. Benjamin waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Yes. After receiving the order, the subordinate retreated. Dr. Benjamin frowned. Things were getting more and more complicated, and it was out of his control. If he guessed correctly, Yang Ming must have teamed up with Dong Jun. What he didn't expect was that while everyone else was avoiding him, Dong Jun and Yang Ming were doing the opposite. They were actually taking the initiative to go against him. Old Scorpion, come here. Dr. Benjamin found one of his trusted underlings, who was also the manager of the center. It could be said that he was the person Dr. Benjamin trusted the most in the center. Doctor, you were looking for me. Old Scorpion walked over and asked. How about this? You can arrange for one of your underlings to go to Las Vegas Beach and put a monitor and listening device on him. Dr. Benjamin said. As for the mission to Las Vegas Beach, go to the chemical shop in the nearby town and buy the chemicals they need. All right, Doctor. I'll arrange it now. Old Scorpion nodded. Then monitor his every move. I suspect that Yang Ming and Dong Jun have teamed up. Zhen Laosher's disappearance was related to them, Dr. Benjamin said. Understood, Doctor. You want to test if Yang Ming and Dong Jun are still watching Las Vegas Beach, and if they are watching us specifically. Old Scorpion knew about Zhen Laosher's disappearance. Not bad. Dr. Benjamin nodded. This is a test. Let's see if Dong Jun and Yang Ming did it. On the one hand, let's see if they are here to capture people randomly, or if they are here for our center. If they are here for our center, we can record their faces. I know what to do. Old Scorpion nodded, thinking about the candidates for this mission. They couldn't be too important, so it wouldn't be a pity if they died. Well, this time, let's change to a speedboat. Also, our people shouldn't dress too formally. Let's wear beachwear. We'll look like beach tourists playing on the sea. It can also confuse Yang Ming and Dong Jun, said Dr. Benjamin. But will Dong Jun and Yang Ming be able to recognize him? Old Scorpion paused. If they can't recognize him, then it's better if they don't get killed by the enemy. Buy those chemicals for me. I don't have much left. If he succeeds, then my experimental drugs will be settled, said Dr. Benjamin. That's true. Old Scorpion nodded. Then I'll arrange it now. Go ahead, Dr. Benjamin said. Yang Ming heard every single word of the conversation between Dr. Benjamin and Old Scorpion. Dr. Benjamin, you have probably guessed that we did it. After Yang Ming finished watching, he said to Dong Jun, he already found out that I'm not in Songjiang City. He suspects that I'm with you, and that we killed Zhen Laosher. That can't be. Did he suspect us so quickly? Dong Jun was a little surprised. But now it seems that Dr. Benjamin said that there are still people in Songjiang City. This is true. Yes, this must be true. But we don't know who this spy is. Otherwise, we can avoid creating some smoke bombs to confuse them. Yang Ming shook his head. But there's no need for that now. Since he already guessed that it was us, then it doesn't matter. Yes, since we chose to go against him, then we're not afraid of him finding out. Dong Jun nodded. Right, what else did Dr. Benjamin say? Did he say what the next step is? Yes. Yang Ming said. Dr. Benjamin is going to send another person. With that, Yang Ming repeated the conversation between Dr. Benjamin and Old Scorpion to Dong Jun, so, he's going to send an insignificant person. Dong Jun frowned. Then what should we do? Should we let him go, or? Since Dr. Benjamin guessed that it was us, if we don't give him a surprise, how can we live up to his guess? Yang Ming smiled. If one comes, we'll kill one. Isn't he out of chemicals? Let's wait at the dock and suffocate him. Good idea. Dong Jun nodded. We don't dare to go to his base, Fire Wolf Island, but it's not a problem to wait at the dock and assassinate him. Especially with a super cheat like you, we can get Dr. Benjamin's movements at any time and know when he'll send someone over. We can kill all of his people without missing a single one. That's what I'm thinking, Yang Ming said. Let's see what he can do about it. What an insidious plan to kill the enemy. Dong Jun said admiringly. Dr. Benjamin's people can't come here to buy things. It won't be long before they're seriously short of supplies. Even if they can fish in the sea and make fresh water, it's enough for them to suffer. Yes, no matter how advanced the technology is, if they don't come out of the island, they'll go crazy one day. Yang Ming nodded. That was his plan. Yang Ming didn't have much confidence in landing on Fire Wolf Island. He didn't have absolute confidence in destroying the center and killing everyone there. Moreover, he still had some doubts about the high-tech weapons in the center. After all, these technological products were beyond imagination. Although Yang Ming was invulnerable, who knew if there were any new weapons that could deal with him? For a guy like Dr. Benjamin, who was a graduate student, what if he developed some biochemical bacteria specifically to counter the gene gang goo? Oh. Although it was a bit unrealistic, it wasn't impossible, so Yang Ming still had to be careful. Moreover, Dr. Benjamin might have some more powerful trump cards than the Iron Men. Although they might not be able to do anything to Yang Ming, if the strength of those trump cards was similar to the Great Elder of the Dark Knight Palace, Yang Ming wouldn't be able to do anything to them. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.